Jack Harrison bringing the ball forward. He's played it into Pablo Hernandez, edge of the area. Hernandez goes for goal! What a start to the game! 17 seconds on the clock. It's got to be one of the quickest goals of the Sky Bet Championship season. Here's Cook. Cook goes for goal! And finds the back of the net in sensational fashion.
Jones now for Leeds. And McNabb only half stopping him. Jones getting it across. And Clark going in! And Alan Clark has put Leeds ahead! Live down under. Mark Viduka is a sporting god in Australia, and now in West Yorkshire. There he is again. It's Viduka. It's four. It's all his own work.
Right, so was going to come on at 7 when the window's over, but I just thought, what's the point? What is the point in leading you guys to a point of which at 7 o'clock you're all going to be coming on saying, Connor, you heard anything? Connor, what? Yeah, not that I would, but Connor, what do you think of this? And I'm just like, what is the point? What is the actual point of me waiting 2 hours when we all know what's going on? We all know what's going on. And our heads are frying at the business that's going on in the rounders at this moment in time. And I think this is a bit of therapy. I'll be honest with you. I think this is a little bit of therapy. There's been news that's gone on today in terms of players coming in and players going out of certain clubs, of which I'm kind of looking at, and I'm absolutely bewildered that Leeds haven't made a move on it. I'm looking at clubs that a player goes out, promoted clubs, a player goes out, which is a good deal for certain clubs, and then immediately they get a replacement in, and we'll get onto that in just a second. But you just get to a point and you're there and you're like, wow, really? Like, and it's not a meltdown or anything like that. You guys know it's not. This channel does provide, I think, quite consistent critical thought. We've got Brownie's thoughts as well. Brownie sent me a voice note of which I'm going to play out in a little bit and for you guys to listen to, and hopefully he's kept the swear words down. But I've asked him to just give his thoughts. He was going to jump on tonight, but he's got a game at Sheffield United, I think, at 7:15, so he can't. So we're going to get Brownie's thoughts on WhatsApp in just a second, but I just can't believe it. I thought today, because we've had this all, the whole we'll stay alive until the last moments. I thought we'd move along. I thought there'd be, something. And it's made me think, and I've been talking to Brownie and Gabe and a few others as well during today, and really trying to analyze what's going on and why, look, you understand Burnley, you get Burnley in their predicament there, and they're relegated, aren't they? A manager, are they going to keep with Scotty Parker? Probably unlikely if they go down. They're miles behind Leeds United. I think, well, what? I don't know how many points we are in front of Burnley, but it's like 11 points or something like that. But I can't help coming back to where I was at this point, at this specific time in the summer, when I was turning around and saying, guys, do you know what? If we can get to January within 2 or 3 points, even if we're in the relegation zone and we can strengthen, I'll be relatively happy with that. So where we are now is beyond my wildest dreams. It literally is. It's incredible where we are. But the point is, when you are in this position of strength, to not do what we've done before, and let me just take you back to summer. in Marcelo Bielsa's second season at the football club, where the 49ers were there. They were involved. Obviously, we know Rads and Orta and Kinnear were there at that point, but the 49ers were involved at that point, as we all know. So they'll have seen the problem state that Leeds were in the summer. And Leeds United in that month, they signed Dan James, or those months, Dan James, Christopher Clarkson, and Junior Firpo. Now, last January, I was okay. I was all right with it because I could take a step back, and I was trying to be quite, I saw all the fire going on around me, and I understood it to a certain level, but everyone was having proper, and there was an anxious state, I think. But the whole 49ers thing started, and there was a lot of people who were very, very upset that what was going on, and the fact that we didn't strengthen. We're in a position of power, and there was us, there was Sheffield United, and we all went high points tally, didn't we, to the end. And it's very ironic, isn't it? Because the exact same is going to be happening this season when it comes to a points tally. It feels like every season Leeds are involved in some sort of competitive scrap. It's record points tallies, and in the Championship it was so high last season, and we needed a boost, didn't we? We need something in January. But I was very much of the thought process that we had enough, we had more than enough, but it was a risk. And obviously, I think we brought in Connor Roberts, who was the loan, who didn't get many minutes because of Archie Gray, and now we've brought in Facundo Buonanotte, alone. I remember it being sort of mid to end as well with Connor, and I think it was mid to end for Facundo as well. And we keep getting led down this garden path of market opportunity. We're going to stay alive. We're going to stay active. And I think we've endured quite a lot when it's come to Leeds. And I think all we want as a club, and we all know this, and it's not to be too dramatic, but we've got we're all very, very, we have that faith, don't we, that it's going to be okay. And I'm trying to admit that. I don't know if you guys are getting that. I can be critical in the moment, but overall, I can be critical of a fixture, of a lack of transfer window, of this, that, and the other. But then I can take on a general perspective that, probably hopefully reeks of a little bit of composure and calmness and assurance that Leeds hopefully will be okay. But I think what irritates me more than anything is the risk, and it's clearly a managed risk. Now, if I'm to speculate, and we love to speculate to accumulate on this channel, I don't think they're either skint, this, that, and the other, which we know they're not, because they were trying to put up 40+ million for Strand Larsen, so they're not skint. I am, and this is my hypothesis, and a few people have listened to this and they've sort of backed it up and said, yeah, we agree with you. I'm going to put it to the conversation now with you guys. I don't think they trust him. I think with Daniel Farke, there's sort of two things that can be right. One, he has a lot of control down there, and he signs off on players. I think there's a lot of general understanding that is the case, that he has a lot of control down at Ellen Road. And I think everybody kind of knows that. I think Berens uttered that in a couple of his Athletic pieces as well. Graham's definitely mentioned it, and I think we're all quite aware of the control that he has down at Ellen Road now, which, we kind of all, it's very unusual, isn't it, from a manager's perspective. It's now all just coaches and coaches and coaches, not managers, because sporting directors effectively just tell coaches the easier players deal with it. And obviously there's a bit of a sign off there, but a manager of a football club, it's very 90s, early noughties, isn't it? You don't really, and 10s, obviously 2010s, but you don't see it that much anymore. The new wave is not managers of football clubs, unless you Pep Guardiola or Arteta, it's coaches, So I think there's two things that, are there. And Daniel Farke is very, I think, controls a lot at Ellen Road from what you're led to understand. But I also think, and with what we've heard when it's come to 3 or 4 leakages of them not being sure on Daniel Farke, putting bits out to the fan base, it's led me to the conclusion that, especially with this window and how quiet it's been when we've been in such an advantageous position, that Jorgen Strand Larsen would have been a player for many managers. Many managers would have come in and seen Jorgen Strand Larsen and thought, right, if we want a certain playing style, which I do think the 49ers will want, and I think the data will back this up, that maybe a 2 up top, more direct, over a press approach will work for Leeds United, and the data backs that up, that they want that. So Jorgen Strand Larsen, for potential future managers, is kind of perfect, really, because he ticks all those boxes. It's going to be a long-term investment, and it kind of synergizes with whoever comes in, you would expect. And that's the plain style and the philosophy. I don't think they are sure on Daniel Farke. I don't know how you can leave the squad looking like this to be sure on the manager, because I think if they were sure on the manager, they would inflate this squad. So we have like a long-term view on the manager. Not only we're going to stay up, but we're going to build with this guy. If there's conflict, and I'm speculating, I'm hypothesizing, and I'm not saying conflict's too strong, but it might be right. Not conflict, but disagreements maybe on certain players' profiles. 49ers might be saying, hypothetically, but it would make sense. We want to stick with the 3-5-2. We want to go a little bit more direct, this, that, and the other. Farke might want a long-term vision of playing out from the back, possession-laden football, yada, yada, yada. Now, if you are backing Daniel Farke, that, and fair play to Farke, but that is his philosophy. It is. We've known it, moving to a 3 at the back and kind of going a little bit more direct. It's not Daniel Farke. He's never been Daniel Farke. So if that is Daniel Farke's way of playing football, back him. Back him. Because it's your decision. So we might say whatever we want to say about Daniel Farke. I'm not going to be sat here and saying Daniel Farke is the greatest manager. I think Farke is a limited football manager, but he's doing a really good job this season. Once again, two things can be right. But you've got to back him. You've got to back his philosophy. Now, you need to put a lot of money into Daniel Farke. You have to do, because for him to succeed at Premier League level, I think he needs a lot of money spent on that squad. That's my opinion. Because I think there's a ceiling with Daniel Farke, so you need to get better players in for him. I think maybe other managers, other incredible coaches might be able to get a little bit more out of certain personnel. That's up there for debate. But I think that's where I lean. Once again, two things can be right. I think he's doing a good job right now, though. But I think overall, when you look at the long-term vision, but then you look at another side of it. Well, if you're not going to back him, if you're not going to invest in his ethos, his strategy, and even if they've had conversations behind it, let's say it's not a 4-3-3, okay? Let's say he wants to move to a 3-5-2, but he wants X, Y, and Z for this 3-5-2. You've got to back him. You have to back him. And as I've said, with Farke, there is a ceiling. So you have got to, if you're backing him, you've got to put a lot of signings into Daniel Farke for Daniel Farke to get it right consistently at Premier League level, year on year, where you're having to spend 80 to 100 million quid just to survive every single year. They're the figures that we're talking about with how good this division is and how much it improves every single year. For you to go into another window and chance it with a backup goalkeeper who's in there, who's never properly had a sustained Premier League period, and he's now 36, for a injury-ridden back line, or is on the edge back line, really, and that's the strongest 11 right now. And we're talking about Bornau being there. Bornau, if you to read between the lines, because he wasn't getting first team minutes, he wanted to leave Leeds United in January, because Leeds, he wasn't playing any minutes. So Bornau's now featuring. Justin's injured. You're looking at the midfield. Buonanotte, is he going to start? I don't see it. I just don't really see it, to be honest with you. That could have just been a signing where both parties agree it's going to improve the team. And, then Farke's never going to say no to that, is he? He's going to say, yeah, of course I'll have him in, because he's going to improve the team. Don't mean he's going to start week in, week out. Once again, this is my hypothesis. Doesn't mean it's true. And then you've got two injury-riddled, or ridden, I should say, strikers throughout the careers, who Dom's doing really well now, touch wood, and Mecha is kind of in and out, isn't he? So we're having a lot of breakdown at the minute as well. There's been Bogle's been out, hasn't he? We've seen Rodon already out this season. Biel's now out. By the way, Biel's last season he played 33 out of 34 matches for Udinese and never missed an international match last season. So he's now out for 5-6 weeks. We know Pascal's got a seasonal injury in him. Gabby's been out, and Gabby was consistent for Lille last season as well. So he's been out. So it's just the luck of the draw. And there's risk management, which some of you may work in, risk management in business. And I am stunned that they haven't thought to themselves, well, even just, you would make me reasonably happy with a backup left wing back of good quality. And we're going to get onto that in just a second. A goalkeeper who can maybe come in as number one. And even if you weren't to get a striker, I'd look at that and think, Well, if Leeds were to get, if Leeds, let's have a think about it. If Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets injured for 2 or 3 games, Metra comes in, we could change around the formation, put a few more attackers on the pitch, Buonanotte, instead of putting Gruev on there, we could have Aronson in there, Okafor, whatever. You can manage putting more attacking players onto the pitch or change your system, maybe go to a 4-3-3, Metra up top, Nonto, Buonanotte on the other side. You can vary it up a little bit. But with a backup left wing back, and a goalkeeper's such an important position. And people, because it's between the sticks and people, they don't score goals, it's not flashy. People undervalue how important a goalkeeper is. It's massive. It can win you 12 to 15 points per season. We saw that with Ilan Mele when he lost us 12 to 15 points. You've seen it in history. The one who always stands out to me is scum goalkeeper, David De Gea, who every single season would save him 12 to 15 points. You even look in the division we were at last season. Do you remember Victor Johansson? Victor Johansson saved Stoke so many points at championship level. You see goalkeepers doing that. And that's how important they are. That can be the difference. We talk about goal difference, but having a top quality goalkeeper or even a goalkeeper who is just a little bit above your level is so important. Case in point, Robin Roofs at Sunderland, who was 5 to 6 million quid less expensive than what Lucas Perry was for Leeds United. So it's just, I think at the minute, I'm just a little bit bereft with what they've done. And this is the strongest 11, by the way. If we're to be brutally honest, it's much weaker than this now. This is best case scenario that everybody's fit. And this is kind of the formation that might fit in for Facundo Buonanotte. But let's just be realistic now, because we don't have a striker. So it's not going to be a 3, is it? Sorry, it's not going to be a 2 up top. So you're going to have bang, bang, bang. Then you'll have Gabby out wide. Then you have Brendan in there. This is what you're looking at now. I think this is what we're going to be looking at as well. Metra comes in and he goes out. So that effectively, Biel's not in there as well, which is crippling, but he's not in there. So that is kind of what I think we're going to be looking at, people. That's kind of what I think we're going to be looking at. And that's not just Farke versus Forest, but it could be versus Forest. And, it gets you to that conversation again where loads of people have got as favourites. Loads of people have got as favourites for that game. And it's not, let's not go chaotic here. Let's not go absolutely, chaotic. Leeds are still in a really good position. But this is crazy, I think. I think it's crazy that, and whatever dispute, as I've said, I've mentioned Farke being a limited manager for me. I've mentioned him been big on decisions, which I think he is big on decisions, and that could be a stumbling block. But we've had that before with Radrizzani, Orta, and Bielsa, and the 49ers have been in the room. Have you not learned from that? We've not learned from that in terms of maybe, and I'm speculating to accumulate, but maybe a little bit of a power struggle when it comes to signings. We want these signings. You don't want these signings. I think there's been plenty of examples with the 49ers and Daniel Farke right now, who are the 49ers players and maybe who are the Farke players and who are the ones that maybe they're both agreed on. I think you can see that by playing time a lot of the time. But I just, to stay in the Premier League, the golden goose, and to be this sort of indecisive is, excuse my French people, fucking mental. Mental. And I will flash up a couple of things and we'll get into your comments. And this is what I was talking about earlier in terms of, this is probably what sent my head to Mars a little bit. We've been speaking about this guy for a long time now on One Leeds in Windows. Now, if you're not familiar with Luca Netz he's a top prospect. He's 22 years of age now, I think he is. Contract runs out, I believe, in the summer. Forest. And he can play left. I think he's been playing left mid for a lot of this season, which just shows how perfect he is stylistically for Leeds, because in his career, he's played left back, he's played left wing. So then you're not getting your out and out standardized left back or left winger. You've got your Gaetano Berardis or your Alioskis. You've got that middle ground. You've got that middle ground where you've effectively got a left wing back who would be perfect in a 3-5-2. Honestly, you guys have a bet 5. Take my word for it, or just watch how Luca Netz plays. Someone said to me on my video, he's past, on Twitter, he's past it. He's certainly not past it. He's 22 years of age, for God's sake. But, that's kind of the rhetoric which he's going to get peddled when Leeds don't sign players. But that and Stefan Ortega has sent my head just It's not even a lot of money. It is not a lot of money. There is not going to be big wage demands there whatsoever. Stefan Ortega will demand a very modest wage, presumably, especially with the age that he's at right now, and he'll know where his career is at. To not go and get Luca Netz when he's available, I had no idea he was available. No idea. But to not go and get Luca Netz when there's, I mean, look at that, 2.5 million euros. So it's just 2 million quid. And then they've gone and got Stefan Ortega, and they're still working now, Forest. They put a bid in for Hayden Hackney. I mean, if they'd got that done, I think, oh my, if they got Hayden Hackney done, I mean, that would have been very, very worrying. I think they've gone in for Sidney Peck as well at Sheffield United, but they're still going, and Forest are probably going to make some signings, and it's Marinakis in it, so we know what he's like. But once again, Leeds United, the smartest people in the room. Smartest people in the room again. So look, I try be positive with them. I try think, because in my life we've had such awful owners, and I'm not gonna, as I've mentioned to you guys before, I'm not gonna, make this into some dramatic thing, because it's not. But what this is, and I've got it on the thumbnail, it is such a risk. And we're not talking about championship risk. We're not talking about risk where we have an upper echelon squad. And yeah, you might have a little bit of a fall off, but you've got Tanaki, you've got Nonso, you've got Ramazani, you've got Dan James, you got Solomon, you got Rothwell, you got Bogle, you got Rodon, you got Strauk. These are the players that you've got in the championship. We're talking about our squad is 17th, 18th, isn't it? And you've developed it in the January window where you've got 30 days, and you've shown that you've got money because you're willing to put that money into Jorgen Strand-Larsen. And you don't even have to do that. You don't even have to spend 20 million quid. Don't spend 20 million. So that's what you get told as well. Well, who can we sign? Who can we sign? Him. That'd have been nice. Earlier on in the window. Him. German link. That one right there. That'd have been good. Him. Oh, well, he wouldn't come in. It's competition. So he's 22 years old, Luca Netz. Fine. Come in. Compete with Goodmanson. Can play left wing. Left back, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Decent wage structure. Stefan Ortega. And Forest have done this. The team below us have done it within the last 2 or 3 days. It's fucking mental, guys. It's mental. And we are just the smartest people in the room again. Don't need to do it. And we might not need to do it. We might not need to do it, guys. We might not need to do it. Okay? And this could be dramatic. We could look at the end and I'll get clipped up and people say, what was he talking about? He's talking shite. And I understand that. Completely understand that. But this will always be evergreen, because no matter what happens with Leeds United, no matter what happens at the end of the season, we could go on. I mean, I did a table predictor. I had us finishing 13th. Ironically, from when I've done that, I've got every result right, which is not normally like me. But 3 games, I've got all the results right. So maybe we are on to 13th. Who knows? But that is based on everybody being fit. Everybody being fit. And it's shown in our last 2 games when we've seen these injuries. We've seen the problems a little bit when some of the squad is breaking down. It's problematic, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, this is probably where a lot of Leeds heads are going to spiral, even the ones who are a little bit positive. It's when you've got signings like that, you've got open goals like that, and you've got a team below you who aren't in the relegation zone. So what have they done? They've expanded the feathers a little bit. They've done the old peacock, and they've gone, look, we're Nottingham Forest. We're not in the relegation zone. You don't want to go to West Ham, do you, or whatever, if anybody's interested in you. So come to us. And unfortunately, Leeds United have done the opposite, where it's kind of, we just brought in a lone player. I mean, read the room, and they're not looking at what other teams are doing. I mean, it's not like, look, I'm not saying that you react to what other teams are doing, but you've got to have an eye on what other teams are doing in and around you. You've got to. And by the way, if it wasn't for Mateta wanting to go to Milan, they'd have also got Mateta as well. So this was another thing which, and you guys might not be interested in this, but I just thought this was brilliant from Sunderland. This is obviously a team that we came up with. By the way, we finished, 24 points ahead of them. And we had a squad way more acclimatized to the Premier League. I know they had stronger PSR, completely get that. And we can't have a conversation with Sunderland, really, because their PSR differences are just, it's massive compared to what Leeds are. So we can't really have, when you're talking about expenditure and outgoings, we can't really have that much of a conversation about that, because Sunderland are in a different predicament to what we're in. But this just pricked my ears a little bit. So this is someone who I didn't rate, and he scored a wonder goal against Leeds, but I don't rate him. Simon Adingra, right? Just at the bottom there. Adingra to AS Monaco. Here we go. Verbal agreement done with Sunderland. Understand it's a deal worth €1 million with €17 million buy option. It's an option, but that's so smart because he's going to the French league, which is not a patch on the Premier League. So he's going there. So there is probably a likelihood that they that they exercise that buy option. Because he's not good enough for the Premier League, in my opinion. So it's smart when it comes to outgoings for Sunderland as well, because they're looking at the future and they're thinking, well, is he going to do well in that league so we can actually exercise that buyout option? Probably is. Yeah, it's not a great league. That's just so smart in terms of targeted outgoings and where to go, what league to play in. Because maybe, let's say, if Adingra went to, let's pluck a name out, Villarreal or something like that, he might struggle in La Liga. That might be a conversation right now. So immediately, exclusive, an hour later, Nilson, I've not heard of this guy. Nilson Angulo, by the way, just players in the Belgian league. There's such a market there. Nilson Angulo to Sunderland. Here we go. Deal agreed with Anderlecht. Surprise move. Great. Agreed by SAFC and medical ongoing. Now it's another surprise move by Sunderland, which ranks up there with the likes of Michele from PSG and Granit Xhaka from Bayer Leverkusen. 22-year-old Ecuadorian winger joins to replace Simon Adingra on the way. I mean, this has no bearing, for Leeds United, but I just love to work in the way that Sunderland do all of a sudden, where it is just we lose a player of value, bang. I mean, they were in a bit of a, not frenzy, I'd say, but earlier on today, there was conversations about Gertrude leaving, and Gertrude has been brilliant for them. He's played at the back. He's played in central midfield, especially during AFCON. He's done really well and fit in there. Sunderland just shot it down. Liverpool wanted him. Sunderland went, nah, you're not having him. You're not having him. He's too important. And it was something like 23, 24 million quid. And it just, and then this is kind of how they sanction their last day, rejecting a bid for Gertrude, and then this kind of goes on. We just don't work like this. You absolutely know that if this was Leeds United, we'd have sanctioned a much lesser fee and we'd have got a loan in. So I think I've just kind of got to that sort of stage now where it is just so frustrating. And this is why I didn't want to leave it till 7, because I'm going to be coming on to you guys and I'm going to be here and we're going to be, there's no point in delaying it, is there? There is no point in delaying it. So yeah, it is what it is. I mean, Graham told us we were doing the rumour mill this morning and Graham just said to us, he was like, yeah, it's done. They're not doing anything. So it's we'll stay active, but we'll wait for market opportunities. So then you see this. Sorry, not that. So then they tell you that they're going to stay active in the market, right? They're going to stay active in the market. They're going to wait for market opportunities. Then you see that. Then you see that. And it's well, are you actually staying active or is that just some PR spin? What is that? I just, if we go down, it's going to be pointing one way. And this is probably why you're all frustrated. I'm frustrated because they are, it can be anything that goes wrong from now onwards. Every Leeds fan is going to point back to this moment. Every Leeds fan. And my phone's getting blown up here. And once again, it's not dramatic. It's not dramatic at all. I don't think anyway, because I think it's the feel of the fan base at the minute. And I completely understand it. But to leave it like this with one lone player coming in, no cover for left wing back, no goalkeeper where there's been problems, mass problems, no centre back coming in after Bornau effectively said he wanted to leave in the window, if you're to believe reports, and Leeds blocked that move to Cologne. NFFC says Goodmanson is better than Nets. It's not the point, mate. It's not the point. It's not the point whatsoever. Leeds need competition back then for 2 million quid for somebody who's not going to be on a lot of money per week. With a little competition between him and Gabby Goodmanson, doesn't matter. Nets is a very decent player. Very decent player. 22 years of age, 6 months left on his deal. Come on. There's your market opportunity. Saw this really good tweet earlier. So he said, let's just get into let's get into it. So Leeds United, and this is by Chris McMenemy. Leeds United currently starting a backup goalkeeper who dropped a clanger on Saturday. Backup striker is injured. No cover at left wing back. Need another defender. Sitting on their hands again, an unnecessary risk. And that is the problem. We can all have our gripes, and I know there's a lot of us who do, about Farke in certain certain instances and all this sort of stuff and certain personnel. But the 49ers own the football club. You're not sure on Daniel Farke, you know what to do. It will be madness right now. But this is where we are right now. If you're not sure on him, and you weren't sure on him after the Chelsea game, Liverpool game, whatever, we've seen crazier things happen in football where managers have got to win. I'm not advocating this. It's top-down approach. If you're not going to back him and you don't trust his style, which we've said before, if you don't want to, because he needs a higher quality player, Daniel Farke, because he's not a top-level Premier League manager. He's just not. So you're going to have to back him with a lot of good players if he wants to, if he wants to play that style of football that we know he wants to play. So you've got to back him with real quality players. If you don't do that, you evidently don't trust the manager. There's been leakages that you don't trust the manager. And this window has shown me that you don't trust the manager long term, because you'd have put players in this window to his style, to his team, so that he can indoctrinate them for the next 4 to 5 months in a Daniel Farke system to go into next season. They've not done it again. They've just got the risk-averse signing of Facundo Buonanotte, who goes back in 4 or 5 months. Guys, man. Dearie me. Dearie me. And do you know what? I thought I'd come on here, genuinely thought I'd come on here. And towards the end of the day, I was positive. I thought, do you know what? There'll be something. They'll do something. They will do something. Gets to 4, 5, and it's all coming out from the sky spot. Leeds aren't looking to do anything. And then you just see these market opportunities for fullbacks, for goalkeepers. Sunderland working in a ridiculously efficient fashion. West Ham still trying to get signings done. I mean, would I be that bothered about Axel Disassi? Not really, but I don't think any of us would have turned our nose up at him. Just in a say, he wouldn't have been top of my priority list. But when you've got an injury-ridden back line at the minute, and I'm not being dramatic there, when you've got Goodmanson still feeling his way back in, he didn't look fit the other day. James Justin, who's done something to his toe. You got B all out. You've got Bornau who has injury problems. In the back line, there's a few issues there. We've already seen Rodon out this season. Go and get someone like Axel Disassi in. It's very, very risk-free. Even if you wanted to do a loan, just do a loan. And then we don't have to look at this long-term vision of Daniel Farke and what players he wants and should he be sacked or should he be backed. You just bring in a risk-free signing for the next 4 or 5 months that you can slot into the back line and say to him, look, if you prove your worth, like Jacobiel has done, if you prove your worth, you'll start for Leeds United in a back three. Disasi's played in a back three before, but we don't do it again. And if they've got an alternative lined up, fine. But not everything has to be long term. It doesn't always have to be like that. I get the Strand Larsen thing, understand it. But if your squad's going through, in terms of fatigue and injury, if it's going through a bit of a period at the minute, you've got to strengthen it. You've got to strengthen it. I mean, the fucking goalkeeper. How on earth they've not looked at that? And I'd love to know what the bid from Besiktas was. I'd love to know. Absolutely love to know what that was for Lucas Perry. Can you negotiate and get another goalkeeper in like Stefan Ortega for 2 million quid? 500 grand it was. Daniel says, hi, Connor, this is Stranger Things. It's not so not Leeds. We get JS. Oh, Daniel, I wish I shared your optimism, mate. I don't think so. He's pretty much had a medical agreement at Crystal Palace, I think. Ben wants to throw some points into the DDD. Shout out to you, Ben. Last week, you questioned JJ over JR at right centre-back. One game later, he can do it. Last week, you questioned JJ over JR. Joe Rodon at right centre-back. One game later, he can't do it. Are you saying that I've said he can? I think he can do it, mate. I don't know if you're saying that I've said that he can't do it. He 100% can do it. James Justin. My worry is the sustenance. But I never said he couldn't do it, mate. That's never been said. One game later, he can't do it. A loss on Perry, even at 15 million euros, F's PSR wipes off funds, and you bang on. You're absolutely bang on. That's why it would have been interesting to know what the conversation would have been with Perry and Besiktas when it came to the negotiation. We'll never know. But Leeds rejected an approach, not a bid, which says to me if it's an approach, Leeds didn't want to negotiate at all. That's what that says to me. So it might not even would have got to as far as a bid. Leeds rejecting an initial approach, which was the vernacular used, says to me that Leeds didn't want to negotiate, in and around Lucas Perry. Also, when you said there, mate, last week you questioned James Justin over, you questioned JJ over JR. I didn't actually question that if you're talking about positional. That's not what I said. I said a lot of what James Justin might be able to do at right centre-back, I think would emulate some of the things that Joe Rodon can do at right centre-back as well. I think he's got a decent turn of pace. James Justin, I think he reads the game well. He's perceptively where the ball's going to drop. He's very decent at covering that right wing back. I think he's decent there as well, and just covering that spot in behind Jayden Bogle. He's not got the height, he's not got that physicality, but he's an athlete. So I think he can replicate, some of the traits. That's what I said. Neil says, Leeds always doing it the hard way. Wouldn't have it any other way from NYC. Glad I'm finally able to join a stream. By the way, Calvin Phillips to Sheffield. Yeah, mate. Yeah. Calvin, that's Phillips's level, mate. That's Phillips's level. So it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me whatsoever, to be honest. A lot of people saying, from what I've heard, it's not true about the Rodon and DCL things. So I think if DCL was injured, I genuinely believe if DCL was injured today, they'd have to emergency look at someone. I think you'd see a lot of panicking down at Ellen Road if DCL was to be injured. But that's the predicament they've got in now. It's the predicament they're in. The issue is, as much as Leeds don't like dealing in the January window, as much as they don't like dealing in the January window, that's where we are now. The window cannot be open in February, March, April, and of course, May. It can't be open. So you got to do your business in the next 1.5 hours, which I cannot see us doing. Shout out to you, Lee. How's it going, mate? And thanks for your donations, buddy. Lee, an absolute legend on the channel. We cannot be close to PSR. Otherwise, why would we bid 33 million on JSL? Once again, we tried and tried. And this is the problem. Hi, Harvey. This is the problem. We all now know how much they bid for Jorgen Strand Larsen. So that was an exercise risk on PSR, wasn't it? And they'll have structured a deal of where it'd have worked. But Market Opportunity FC don't deem anyone else, or maybe they do, but they're not willing to really go for it. Stay Active FC are not willing to get anybody else in before the window closes. And I'm really trying to provide a bit of balance here, and that's what I always try to do with the Niners. I think there's always a reason when it comes to ownership. I think fans can sometimes be too quick to say, A is A and B is B. I think there can sometimes be other extenuating factors in there. I think the same can be done with management as well. But I think they've really, I think they've mucked this up a little bit. If we stay up, brilliant, but it's still a risk. This will still be an evergreen video in 6 months' time, as the January one was last season, when I was saying we didn't really need to do any business, but it was a risk, a big risk, and this is the biggest risk yet, which is exactly what the thumbnail says. This is a massive risk. You're going into Nottingham Forest, probably revitalised by a couple of new signings, revitalised by not losing in 4. Forest coming into the game on Friday night, and yeah. It's not good, is it, guys? It's not good. Oh, dear. But shout out to you, Neil. Thanks for the comment. Aaron says as well, without knowing the ins and outs, who would you give the majority of the blame to, recruitment or Farke? Great question, Aaron. Great question. I think Farke has a lot of control at Ellen Road. I think he has a lot of control at Ellen Road, which naturally makes it harder to bring in players. But this is where it's a collaborative approach, where this is where people are like, well, Farke can't do anything. Of course he can do something about it. Of course he can. Because he has mentioned several times that it is a collaborative approach and they are working together. And you got to think, guys, this is a new recruitment team. Farke has been there longer in terms of that first team environment than a lot of this recruitment team when you're looking at Underwood and co. So Farke will have a big, strong say in that. And if you're to believe reports as well, and you to believe murmurings behind the scenes, he's got a big presence at Ellen Road, the manager. And I'll say manager, not coach. So, yeah, like you said, mate, there's two things there. So when it comes to recruitment, I think the recruitment in the summer window was good enough for Leeds United to finish. Personally, I think for Leeds United to finish 17th, that's what I said, and that's what I continued with. It took Farke too long, in my opinion, to move to the formation and the style of which suits the needs of the recruitment, and that was brought in. And thank God that was then justified. We were saying on this channel, it's not to say we know all, of course it's not, but you had Jakobiol, who's played in multiple back threes before, who was ostracised and put on the bench and wasn't brought in, and the fan base thought he was crap because he put in a poor performance against Sheffield Wednesday, which was, you know, a lot of what was said about the likes of Bornau as well. So he wasn't involved, and we know with Farke, he does pick his favourites, and now Biol will be in there for that in terms of that favouritism. You'd expect he's playing well as well. So Farke took a long time to get to that. I think if we'd have got to that point earlier, I think the recruitment would have actually been. We'd have all been looking at it going, bloody hell, that is unbelievable recruitment, because I think we'd have got way more points than what we're on right now, because you've seen the success of the 3-5-1-1, the 3-5-2. So the back three, which is what Leeds recruited for when you looked at the personnel coming in, hence the amount of centre-backs we brought in, you could see that Leeds were planning for that. You know, Bornau and Biol, it was basically a back three, and then Ampadu and Bornau to cover that, and maybe James Justin to cover in a back three, which he's done before as well in his career. So you could see what Leeds were moving to, but Farke didn't want to do that yet. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to stick to the 4-3-3. He wanted to play out from the back. He wanted that possession-laden Leeds United style, of which was working in the Championship. And we've seen now when you have a mix of the both, that's probably where we're at our best. But the problem is it still sometimes leans into the Farke way. So I think there is still maybe a little bit of dispute at points between Farke and the board. I think Farke could probably be quite difficult to get certain personnel in. But I also think Farke came out the other day and said that they all need that, like, effectively they know what they know what I want. And they've delivered sweet FA when it comes to this window. So it's very difficult because Daniel Farke is employed by the San Francisco 49ers. They are, as much as they've come out before, and you've had Daily Mail spreads, you've had, you know, other publications talking about Daniel Farke, and now they've not been sure on him. I think that's been quite unfair on Daniel Farke. But it brings it back to my overarching point, where I don't think they're sure on him. I don't think they're sure on him, because I think they'd be planning now as well for long term, but they'd have these, you know, short term signings coming in as well. But I don't think they're willing to put the hand in their pocket enough to support Daniel Farke, because I think he'll be gone in the summer, regardless. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's what I think will happen. I think regardless, if Leeds are in the Championship, I think he's gone. I think if Leeds are in the Premier League, he's gone. That's what I think will happen. And I think this January window has been very, very interesting, because as much as I still have faith that Leeds will stay up, they are making it a lot harder here. But I think that is risk management from their part. I think there's a reason they're doing that. And I think that's because they think that this squad is good enough from what they've done in the summer. They'll hobble on over. They've seen enough. They'll hobble on over into the summer. Don't need to put too much money into it. They'll take that 40 million quid that we've had for Jorgen Strand Larsen and other people and go for a massive summer. And that's probably what we'll do under another coach. That's what I think will happen. Not saying it will, but that's what I think will happen. The problem with that is if you then get to the summer and you've not done that and you finish in 18th spot, then you have... I don't know if you can come back from that as the 49ers. You know, they'll go probably, you know, if we went into the Championship, we'd bounce back up. There's the likelihood, but every single Leeds fan, you know what we're like. We remember every single Leeds fan will always point back to Leeds United being 6 points clear, 7 on goal difference. West Ham being in the bottom 3, strengthening. Forest being 17th, strengthening. Wolves even, and I know Wolves are preparing for next season, but them still strengthening. And they'll look back, Palace strengthening. they'll look back and say that was the moment again. That was the moment again where Leeds United thought they were the smartest people in the room and they got it wrong again. So this is the problem. They're by not really going in and supporting it. Literally, what were we all talking about? 3 signings. That have to be massively expensive. Let me just bring this up again. One more time. Something like that. Stefan Ortega and, I don't know, Amora. Something like that. And even if you weren't to do Amora, if you weren't to bring him in, absolutely fine. If you don't want to bring him in, Facundo Buonanotte, a backup GK or a competitive GK and a backup left wing back, I think we'd have all just turned around and gone, yeah, okay, fair. A 9 would have been nice. It is a bit of a risk still, but we can understand why you want to really go for a number 9 in the summer because it's going to be a big investment. But getting in a goalkeeper and a backup left wing back, that shouldn't be hard. That is stuff that you can do right now. Right now. Then there are market opportunities out there. You can stay active. But once again, we're at this point again, aren't we? We're all used to it now. We should sign Alioski back, says LEFCEED. Gabe's in the building. How many January signings has Farke trusted and plugged in throughout his career, even outside of Leeds United? Farke has spoken time and again about being picky and preferring squad unity. Gabe, I completely understand what you're saying, mate. And me and Gabe were just actually talking off air there a little bit, and that reminds me, I will play Brownie's message, and I'm sure you know where that's going. But me and Gabe were just talking there, and I understand what you're saying there, Gabe, 100%. If you're not happy with him, and this would be, and not you, Gabe, but if they're not happy with him, then they're not willing to back him long term, and as you've quite rightly said there, Farke sometimes does pull back on these things. We've heard with Joel Peru, effectively didn't want him to go. It's not exactly marketing him out there, is it? There is an ownership which has the final say on everything here. And I think everybody knows what I'm getting at here. So if Farke is problematic, and I'm not, in this hypothetical situation, which could be true, but let's say for argument's sake, this is how it is. If he's difficult, if he's turning signings down, yada, 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 all this sort of stuff, you as an ownership group can make a decisive decision there. But that decisive decision should have been made before the window started, where Leeds could then prepare, because they know what Daniel Farke's like, because they've been through transfer windows with Daniel Farke before. So they know his tendencies, the things that he likes, what he doesn't like. They'll have had conversations. They'll have pre-planned this season for a year beforehand. When they went down last time, they'll have planned Leeds United getting back into the Premier League, what we'll do in the summer, what we should do in the January window, where we'll distribute our funding. Let's not forget, Jakobio was being spoken to by Leeds United in January. Leeds went up in the April, May. So there's preparation here, a lot of preparation. And this is what I'm talking about when there's leakages in the summer about, they wanting another manager and not being sure on Daniel Farke. This makes sense to me in the January window. They're not willing to fully back Daniel Farke, in my opinion. John says, hi, Con, I love the channel. However, what's the point in players coming if Farke just sits them on the bench with the right manager? We stay up. Yeah, and it's what Gabe was saying, mate. What Gabe was saying. I understand that. But that's not Farke's fault, is it? That's who Farke is, Facundo Buonanotte, I agree with you, John. Facundo Buonanotte, is he going to get the minutes that is required? But there is one ownership group who employ Daniel Farke. So we can all talk about Daniel Farke. There can be stuff. I think Farke at this moment in time is doing a pretty decent job in the Premier League. I think there's criticisms there, of course, but he's doing a good job right now. And you'll hear Brownie's voice now in a second. He thinks it'd be madness to sack Farke, and I do right now as well. But guys, there's 2 things I'm saying here, okay? If they're not willing to back him, and they're not willing to back this long-term vision of Daniel Farke, which needs a much higher ceiling signing, much higher level of signings if he wants to play a certain way in the Premier League. So if they're not going to back him on that and go full in with Daniel Farke, then for me, there is an understanding that long-term Daniel Farke is not going to be the manager of Leeds United. That's why they're not doing it. But then you do get brought back, and me and Gabe were talking about this as well. Why do you not then go up for loans? Bring loans in. Low-risk signings, Axel Disassi. And I'm not saying that will be my ideal signing, but if you want to bring in a centre-back that's going to help Leeds United right now, slot in, help us with our defensive problems, a loan signing, low risk, which was what we got told consistently with Facundo Buonanotte, then what's the point? But yeah, there has to be agreement between Farke and the board level, of course. But if there's not that in a working environment, then that's a problem, isn't it? And it shouldn't be in the Premier League that we have that problem. So yeah, I don't know. Oh dear, let's have a look. What you guys are saying anyway. Let's have a look. Keep getting your comments in anyway. Aaron said, as much as I appreciate Farke and what he has done for us, I feel that he needs to go in the summer. He's the reason Peru plus others are still here, and he doesn't like to adapt to the situation. That's fair. Knox says, very simple. Bring some good players in that are good players that Farke would use. No man. Yeah, Knox, I think I'll spot him. I'll spot him. But Knox, good players cost good money. Yeah. And if you don't see that long-term vision, that long-term projection with the manager, which I'm certain they don't, because there's been way too many leaks of them thinking about getting rid of Daniel Farke at points. Remember the Chelsea game where we'd lost 6 out of 7, and there was the Chelsea game, the Liverpool game, where even if he'd have beaten Chelsea, which obviously we did, he then needed to get points against Liverpool, needed to get points. And you saw the shift in terms of the 3-5-2 against Man City, which is so unlike Daniel Farke. But at that point, they wanted to get rid of him, 100%. They were just trying to find the right moment. Because it feels like with the 49ers, this is how I feel anyway. It feels like they're very, very bothered about the image. They're very bothered about what the fans think, which from an ownership standpoint is interesting because a lot of American ownerships in particular just don't give a shit. They don't care. And it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing as well because it shows that maybe there's a lack of ruthlessness there. And this is what I mean. It's when people say, oh, we've had the skintest Arabs, we've had the skintest ownerships of the skintest Italian, the skintest 49, Americans. I don't think the skin. I just think they're maybe a little bit indecisive, which as an ownership is something that we are probably not used to because our owners have been decisive before, just in the wrong way. Okay, let's see what Leeds says. It's more Ortega for me. Bargain and deregister 2 of those 4 clowns that we have registered. And as well, Leeds 71. We saw interest in Meslier even this window, haven't we, from Besiktas apparently. Are we marketing Elan Meslier whatsoever? I just wanted to know I'd love to know what that offer for Perry was. Obviously, we brought him in, didn't we, for what was it 15, 16 million quid. It'd have just been interesting because, as I've mentioned to you guys this morning, big cash injection for Besiktas by their own standards, by selling 3 players in this window, including Tammy Abraham. It would have just been interesting to know how far that got. Because from what Graham Smith said, Leeds had rejected an initial approach. So that instigates to me that there was not even a conversation. It's like, no, we're not selling him, which is strange. And maybe I don't know, maybe they don't want to be proven wrong. Who knows? Who knows? Gio's in the building. Hey, Gio. Ortega was a top signing for Forest. Would have loved him at West Ham. I think they've done some good business, mate. I think they've done some good business, Forest. If they'd have got Hayden Hackney, I think he'd have acclimatised very, very well to Premier League level, and I think he will do in the near future, if not with Borough, with someone else, or even if it is with Borough, he'll move somewhere else. He's a top Championship player, one of the best centre mids I've seen at Championship level. So they went for him, got put back by Borough, which is good work from their chairman Gibson. But Luca Netz and Ortega for 2.5 million quid is a joke. And we're in the market for, and we're active. Leeds are active, and we'll be waiting around all day for market opportunities. What about that? What about that? Right. Steve says not sure if he was like that at Norwich. He's so out of his depth here. And guys, as well, just keep getting your comments in. We're going to be going live until the window ends. Screw it. We'll just stay on. I think we're just having a rant here, aren't we? It's a bit of therapy for us all as well. So, yeah, I'm going to get the missus to get us a cup of tea. Hold on. Does anybody in their relationship have negotiations about cups and just daft things like that? I've got a cup here. I'll just bring you another one. All right. Benching with Zav says, Connor, I know you're not a melee. No, Zav. Zav. This is what happens. This is what happens a lot in our fan base. There will be a player, and I've said this in all of the OGs on One Leeds. All of the OGs on One Leeds will attest to this and all this sort of stuff. What happens? It used to happen with a lot of our players. If it was whoever in the back line was rested or whoever else was rested, a striker, a centre back. What happens is they're left out, and then all of a sudden Leeds start going through a bad period. Suddenly, these players who are out start gaining attributes. We start thinking about games where they've done well. We start thinking, well, their kicking must be better than Cardalo's. And we don't start thinking about how hideous they were in the second tier. We don't start thinking, wow, they are actually a bottom half, bottom tier goalkeeper. Their save percentage reflects a team in the bottom 6. We forget about the 10 to 15 points certain players chucked us away. Let's not go down there, mate. This is what we have to change with the fan ideology. We need to be going out there and buying a player who elevates this team and waiting for these active market opportunities and then acting on that. Not going, oh, who can we have a look? Who can we have a look? Who's up at? No. Oh, can't believe I just found out bloody Elan Melee down there. Elan, come on, let's have a go. Let's give you a go at Premier League level again. No, mate, nowhere near it. You've had more negotiation with your missus. Honestly, it's daily thing, mate. Daily thing. Oh, dearie me. O'Connor, it's up to the players. Yeah, it is. It is. And that's it, Kev. That's exactly right, mate. I think we just get to that point, don't we, as Leeds fans, where it's like, just come on. Just come on. Just give us a bit of help. Just even if it's 2 players on loan, just come on, or a player on loan, a backup. I heard this morning, this is what I thought. I heard this morning that Leeds were going to go for a young left wing back on loan. Fine. Not ideal, but okay. That is fine. Just get a good quality loan in from wherever. Can be Germany, Italy, whatever, can come in, can help Gabby Goodmanson. Not even that. Not even that. 3D says, Shezad, they're not true, mate, from what I've seen, mate. Hold on, Lee, I'm going to have to... Lee, I'm just going to have to address this. And this is from Lee. People, sending your super chats. Connor only gets 70%. Lee, that's not true. It's not true, mate. I even sent you a voice note on a YouTube comment. Lee, you are sending donations to my PayPal, okay? This YouTube right now, as you can see by this, shout out to everybody who's doing it. Daniel, Ben, Neil, Aaron, John, LUFC, EED. These are all donations that come via YouTube, not via PayPal, mate. You're doing it via PayPal, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much, buddy. But I'm not on a stream, and I can't read your PayPal. I have to go into the PayPal app, I have to get a notification, start going through all the verification thing, then I can read it out. But whilst I'm on stream, I don't get notifications for PayPal, mate. There you go. Kirsch has just put one in there. There you go. Thank you again, Kirsch, as well. That's what the donation is, mate, through YouTube. It's got YouTube and PayPal together. Have got nothing to do with each other. Just wanted to put that out there. Kirsch again says, if we don't sign anyone, win Friday night, then no one cares. Lose, results spiral out of control, then owners will be fully... Kirsch, that's it. You kind of got to a point, haven't you, where the finger will be pointed. And if they're done relatively good business, brought in like a goalkeeper who was competitive. You bring in imagine bringing in Ortega and Nets. Would have been buzzing, wouldn't we? Absolutely buzzing. Just those 2 signings. How are we behind on Ortega? How are we behind on that? It's a disgrace that we're behind on that. And that's because I genuinely believe, like we've kind of always done, we think that, oh no, we've bought in Perry, so long term. And he might be. Perry might be, but I can guarantee you right now, Ortega is a better goalkeeper than Lucas Perry and Cardalo. So bring them in now. The whole smart... I'm bored of saying it. I say it to my old man all the time. Smartest people in the room. Always. So... Yeah, but I agree with you, Kirsch. And yeah, I mean, we win Friday night. No one cares, of course. But Kirsch, I think you've got to look more long-term than that, mate. You've got to look a little bit more long-term than just on Friday night, pal. Just on Friday night. Nate says, the market opportunity is a load of Don't get arrogance when we have holes. Market opportunity would apply to the likes of Arsenal, City, who already. Yeah, really good comment there, mate. Really good comment. Like that a lot. Like that a lot. JAMB says, my frustration is that there doesn't seem to be any pragmatism in going for a second or third choice when number one doesn't work out. Failed bids for Wilson and JSL. Yeah, Jam. I think that's what I've been saying a lot of the time. And mate, people say to me, Connor, are you naive enough to think that they're not doing things in the background? I don't think they are. I think it's a sole focus. I've mentioned the 4 signings that I do this a lot. You know, you guys know that I've been doing this for 7 years. It doesn't mean I know anything about what goes on the insides of Ellen Road and the insights and all that sort of stuff. But you see patterns. You see patterns of when Leeds United focus on a player, a specific target, they go all in on that, and it'll take weeks. Ones who I always look at, Habib Diarra, Rodrigo Muniz, Igor Paixão, and now I've got Strand Larsen to add to that. We focus on one player. They might be doing stuff in the background, but we don't hear about it, and there's never an eventuality of it coming out anyway. So that would suggest to me that when we are working on the one, then you hear reports saying it's Leeds' main focus, where, you know, Leeds are staying active and seeing what happens in negotiations. Then invariably a club comes in, you know. So, yeah. Retro says, long time lurker, love the content, another disappointing window, onward and upwards, Leeds. Top man, Retro, thanks so much, buddy. Oh God, bring Duran in, Knox. We'd all have him, wouldn't we? I mean, I'm looking at the wage structure and thinking it might be a lot, but you know, it's John Duran. That'd be a lovely one. I'd be stunned. I'd be stunned if that was to, you know, come to the light. I mean, I remember when he was at Villa and he couldn't wait to get out with Villa and, you know, go and earn his coin, and now wants to come back. But yeah, I'd be surprised. You know, feels very Ivan Toney, doesn't it? Riley says, I may have missed it, Connor, but we do have any? No, mate. No, it's done. No. And the problem is with the JSL deal is it's the finances, mate. I mean, they've offered more money. Crystal Palace now, even more money than they had the other day. They've offered more up front. They've offered 43 million quid as opposed to 40. I think it was 40 plus 5. Now it's 43 plus 5. So obviously it's an overall package of which, but that was the whole problem with it, and that's kind of why people were saying afterwards, do we think we could get JSL now? And obviously putting it in the title and having a bit of fun talking about it, throwing it into the discourse debate discussion. But did I ever think JSL was coming to Leeds? I thought it'd have been a stretch anyway, but I was confident at one point, but nah. But yeah, we don't have that money, mate. Apparently we won't go over 40, which someone tell me as well, right? If Leeds are there with JSL and I'm just trying not to, things are going around in my head now. But if Leeds are there with Jorgen Strand Larsen and we're there for 3 weeks, right? We know what Wolves are going to want ultimately for him. We said didn't we, all on one Leeds, probably about the 7 to 10 days into the negotiations, we said they're going to get to a bidding war here, Wolves, because it was getting close to the end of the window. And you thought, well, the benefit right now is Wolves go to a bidding war on the last sort of 2 or 3 days. That's exactly what's happened. So if dummy me can predict it, how is there at least not conversation within and between Leeds United agents, especially the agent that Jorgen Strand Larsen has, and Wolves? How can there not be conversations that they're not going to accept 40 million quid? They see it as higher. Like, it was similar with Ben White. Do you remember all those years ago when Brighton literally said to us, they went, no, we're not taking anything less than 50 million. And Leeds were still active in negotiations. They liked the player. They followed the player. All these buzzwords. And you just thought to yourself, we're just wasting time, but we had to be there. There's something in football now as well with negotiations where you can't just move on. You have to be there. If something falls through, you have to be there. Well, something's fallen through with the Strand Larsen deal and we're there and nothing's happening. But Leeds have been there. Leeds thought to themselves that, if we're just stood there, it might just fall into our hands. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And instead of like moving on and having that conversation early on where you're a bit like, yeah, it's probably out of our price range, it's fine, no worries, keep an eye on it. But it's like that whole thing of negotiation for 2 or 3 weeks and Leeds have offered and Leeds haven't moved on from the deal. And yeah, it's just weird. Lou's in the building. Hey, Lou. Hey, hold on, cup has arrived. Thank you. So you remember how rough this was for me before?
Yeah. So it's a big day.
Do you want to come on camera or not?
No, definitely not.
Okay. So Leeds haven't signed anyone, whilst the other teams around us have strengthened. What's your opinion on that?
I mean, it's pretty stupid, isn't it?
Why I think it's stupid.
Because how are Leeds going to get any better?
Do you think you should always strengthen?
Yes.
Even when you're at a point of strength.
Yeah, but we lost this weekend, so we're not that strong, are we?
lost.
We did.
The resident mank.
Yeah, Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Big game
surely this weekend proved that they do need to get a bit better.
Yeah.
Do you not think?
I think so.
Well,
Injuries as well.
Who's injured?
James Justin. Do you know who he is?
No.
Yeah.
I thought Ampadu was injured again from when you said
Don't
that.
spread
No,
rumours.
he is.
Don't spread I won't believe that.
Sorry.
Have you heard something? Thanks for the tea.
Okay.
All right.
I'll make my actual food tea.
Right, yeah, cheers. There you go. The inside voice. Lewis says, I hate we're so predictable. Always hope to be proved wrong, but never happens. The whole working in silence is just an excuse so we don't ask questions. Yeah, Lou. Yeah, you could be right, mate. As I said, it's a weird scenario, isn't it? I think we're all kind of at a point where it's a very odd scenario, this, because as I've said, I have to say this and I have to, precursor this. I said in the summer, if we are 2 or 3 points, even if we're in the relegation zone, right? If we're 2 or 3 points in the relegation zone, then you make additions and you make a fight for it. And that's what I'd have looked at in the summer and gone, yeah, I expect that. And that'd be great. With how the Premier League has been and all this sort of stuff. I think what's mental is the fact that I would have expected, I think we'd have done more business if we'd have been in the bottom 3. If that makes sense. I think we'd have done business. I think we'd have not panicked as such, but probably panicked and done more business if we'd have been 18th, 2 or 3 points off. I think the fact we're 16th, and this is what none of us wanted, the fact that we're 16th, the board are probably looking at it and going, we can stumble over. And to be fair, we've all said the same. I think we all saw what happened at the weekend a little bit and shit ourselves a bit, didn't we? A little bit. When West Ham were beating Chelsea, very, very well, should have had 3 or 4. We were all looking and going, it's 3 points, this. It's 3 points. And from a position of which everybody was saying, we're fine. West Ham? They're not going to match their season's wins. That's not going to happen. They've done it. They've done it in 4 games. You know what I mean? That's kind of what we were all thinking. Thankfully, Chelsea came back into it. And West Ham aren't going to win every game, but West Ham have got better. They have got better. There's more balance in that squad with the AFCON lads back. Matis Fernandes is a superstar, in my opinion. I can't believe he's only 21 years of age. I don't think West Ham will have him for long. And now you've got Somerville playing to the peak of his powers and a little bit more of a press in Tati Castellanos over maybe Jared Bowen and Callum Wilson, albeit I think Callum Wilson would get more goals, but they managed to keep hold of him as well. Add another centre-back, because obviously now Tadebo's injured. Suspended. So, you kind of look at it from a West Ham perspective, and if they're able to take, probably similar to us in that Everton situation, in terms of taking that and putting that into other games, but they've done it against Chelsea now in that first 45, and it's like if you can take that into games against Man United at home, Bournemouth at home, Burnley away in the next 3, whilst Leeds have got, after the Forest game, we've got Chelsea, Villa and Man City. I think it's all just becoming a bit real. It's all becoming a bit real. And all of a sudden we're going, oh shit, like this isn't done. And it is not done. If I mentioned this the other night, if you celebrated that Chelsea goal, you were nervous. All of us were. I celebrated that Chelsea third like it was genuinely like Leeds had scored in the last minute. I went nuts because that was so important, especially when they've got Burnley next. So yeah, it's an important weekend for us. It's a massive weekend for Leeds United, and it just shows that at a flip of a weekend, and this is probably like the first time it's happened where we've actually kind of looked at West Ham before the weekend and gone, nah, no chance, it's Chelsea. And then they were in the lead, and then they were battering them. And then all of a sudden, like, you were kind of looking at it and going, they're going to beat them here, or they're going to get a draw. You know what I mean? And that's something to build up on. Thank God Chelsea got that win, of course. But it's just, I think, kind of, even from a West Ham perspective, not like the signings have blown anything out of the water, but at least they've made these additions that are naturally going to strengthen the squad. With Leeds, it's just like a lone player who's come in, and we've seen it's a flip of a weekend, isn't it? It's a flip of a weekend. So now we're looking at worst case scenario, where to lose to Forest. They go beat Burnley, it's 3 points. And then we go into City, Villa, Chelsea, and then they've got Man United, Bournemouth, and it might be Palace. I can't remember. But that's it's game on again. So this is what we're saying. And I just wonder from board level, you know, and then on the other side of it, it can be Leeds beat Forest and, you know, they lose to Burnley this weekend or they draw and the gap goes like that. But you mitigate against that, don't you, people? And when there's injuries, there's this, that, and the other, there's maybe a little bit of a lack of quality in the side, up top and in defence and in the net and out wide. You bring some players in to just aid that and give the squad the lift. Never forget, I don't know who it was. It might have been Elliot Anderson. It was some interview last year. And he was saying that when players are brought in the January window, it does give everybody a lift. It gives everybody at the club a lift. I just kind of look at that and think psychologically it would do a lot, wouldn't it? Not only just physiologically and what you're able to output and do on the pitch technically as well, but the lift it gives people is big. It is big. But this is, and it's not to scaremonger or anything like that. It's quite realistic. It's quite realistic for them to beat Sunderland. Obviously, they beat QPR, which is by the by. But I said this: it beat winning the cup game. You know, getting Somerville on the score sheet, which he got on. You know, and then getting up to speed, and then stopping the rot as such. Then you beat Spurs, gain a bit of momentum. Then you smack Sunderland at home. Then you narrowly lose to Chelsea, narrowly. And then you kind of go into Burnley game, you win that game and Leeds draw or whatever, and it's right back on. It's right back on this whole race. So this is and Forest are in it as well, and Palace to an extent are in it. But yeah, this is why you kind of got to strengthen. So yeah, we are in a good position at this moment in time, but it's right now, it is right now. So we'll wait and see. Lee said, Lee sent me a YouTube. Lee, thank you, but send me a YouTube donation. Right, we'll go to the phone for Lee. Right, okay, Lee, I'm not gonna thank you. Hold on, it's not Lee, is it? Is it Lee? Hold on. Donation, thank you, mate. I can flash your comment on screen then as well, can't I? Yes, right. Okay, Lee. Right. Okay. Well, thank you for that, mate. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, they take the same percentage, I think, PayPal and YouTube. I think PayPal take a little bit more, to be honest with you. So thank you, mate. I really appreciate it. And it's Stephen, isn't it? Your name's Leon there. But Stephen, thank you, mate. I do genuinely appreciate it. It's just easy. I want to, get your comment on here, buddy. Thank you. Again, thanks, bud. Wait until January. Oh. See, Kershaw, he's a very positive man, but he knows how to rattle me a little bit with comments like that. They'll love this. This isn't one of them, is it? Helmut Lang says, I would take Conor McGilligan on loan from Doncott United. Dude currently looks like a damage. If you didn't know my Instagram, guys, I decided to upload some thirsty pictures of me playing football for my football team. Someone said on the comment section, small socks. It's like I might got small socks on, right? I've just a couple of slide tackles in there. Okay. Blacker2 says, Connor, have you considered that JSL could be deliberate to fail and look like we tried? 49ers knowing that it'd be, yeah. I mean, do you know what, mate? I hope not. I really, really hope not. That would be great if that wasn't happening, to be honest with you. But yes, that is something that has crossed my neurons in the old brain, mate. So yeah. Matthew says, is Phillips a good signing for us, pal? I presume are you lot signing just Leeds his team, by the way? For Wilder, who absolutely hates Leeds. It's quite funny. How many Leeds players have you got there now, like ex-Leeds players? I'm going to rinse Jimmy about this when I see him on Wednesday. So you've got Leo Yelder, you've got Joe Rothwell, you've got Calvin Phillips, you've got Patrick Bamford. Are there any others? The ones that are missing? Who else did you have? I'm sure you had another couple. You had Jamie Shackleton, didn't you? Just becoming Leeds 2.0, isn't he? That's his scouting network, Wilder. Is JSL back on with the... No, mate. No, it's not. I don't even know if it's off, to be fair, but no, Jace, it's not. Leeds are not doing any more business, mate. That's why we're on here having a little bit of a cry. A little bit of therapy. As well, apparently Jordan and apparently what's his name? Joe Rodon and Thingy are fine as well, which is great. Yeah, let's just. Wouldn't it be great if they just decided to? Wouldn't it be great if they just decided to bring someone in? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Check DMs, Con. Have a look. Surely not. People on Wacko saying London flight coming or something. Who knows? Who knows? I doubt it somehow. It's if the club are confirming it as well. You know, like people close to the club, Sky Sports and all that sort of stuff. Whatever rumours go around, I don't believe it in the next 50 minutes. I'd be stunned. Chaz says, how about we bring back cooking with Connor or walking with Connor or what else? Yeah, we've got the content's got to switch up now, hasn't it, people? I'm actually getting a rest now. No more rumour mills at 10 a.m. Yeah. It's I have to think about some new content. I can't remember what content we were doing. What content were we doing in like December? What are we saying, people? What do you want to see on the channel? What are we saying? Let's have a look. What was Connor doing before? It all turns into a haze, to be honest. What was doing before? What we're doing? Like commenting on the games. We'll bring Gabe's back as well, which is good. I'm buzzing with that. We've got Hardline, which is coming back. Brownie every Sunday. Geo as well. Relegation rhythm. It's going to get tighter in it. Never forget that. That's most Tuesdays we've got for that. So there's a few more like shows now, collaborations with people, which is good. Then you got your previews, your press conference reaction. Then we're getting into the weekend stuff. So it's probably going to become a little bit less active for me, actually, in terms of doing the room mill every day for about 3 hours. Rodrigo to Pauline coming. Beer reviews. Know me too well. Mark says Forest and West Ham in full-on panic mode. Yeah, hopefully you're right, mate. Hopefully you're right. Can you do Walk with Connor? I can do if you want me to start doing something like that. I just don't think you guys are that interested in it. Cooking with Connor, that would be terrible. Struggle to cook anyway. Hussey, I think you asked me this last time, didn't you, mate? You think we'll be all right as things are, Con? I think the lack of activity in Jan is going to bite us. Oh, dear. Well, if I'm to be fair, if I'm talking about Forest and I'm talking about Luca Nets and I'm talking about Stefan Ortega improving Leeds, that is going to improve Forest. If it looks like Forest are going to get another one done as well. Let's have a look. Forest transfers. Big one as well, everybody. A lot of you will miss is Sangare's back. Sangare is massive for them. Absolutely massive. And he came back from AFCON, I believe, and he just allows Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White to do what they do. They were really struggling without him in that midfield. That midfield balance was all off. So he's now back. I don't even know if they've lost with him being back in there as well. Just going to have a quick look at their winter transfers, Forest. So Lorenzo Luca, who I'm not convinced on, I'll be honest with you, but Stefan Ortega, they brought in 2 left-backs, actually, I think. Oh, they might have come back. But they've not done a lot. Callum Wendo's gone out as well. Douglas Luiz, Zinchenko's gone. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I do like Ortega and Metz. I think they're good signings. So I'll have to wait and see. But I don't know, mate. I'm still saying we're going to stay up. But it's a weekend. That's all it takes. So we've got it. Yeah, they tried Engels, didn't they? So I don't know, mate. I'm not really answering your question here, am I, Hussey? Yeah, it'll be fine. Why not? Jessica says, we are just so injury dependent. If everyone stays fit, we might be okay. That's it. Exactly, Jessica. I think if that's what I mean. If my I mean, let's be honest. Not long ago, we were saying that whoever comes in has done really well. Beal, James Justin, Gruev as well, to be fair. So we're saying whoever comes in is doing well. So we can't double down on that. Or we can't at least go against that now all of a sudden, have that, level of sort of reactiveness, I guess, where it's like, oh no, now we're. But what I will say is things change in a season. The players go out of form. It happens, confidence might deter a little bit. Manager might change certain personnel. James is back now. We know he absolutely loves Dan James. He says it every time he plays. Every time he's in a press conference, he goes on about Dan James. So expect Dan James to be featured. Does that mean Leeds go to a 4-3-3 again? Because that's the only way you fit Dan James in, unless you're going to take out Gabby and unless you're going to take out James Bogle. So Jaden Bogle. So then do we then go back to a 4-3-3 to get Dan James back in? That's something to think about as well, because he loves Dan James, loves him. So, yeah. Byebrows says, realistically, a win on Friday gets us to 29. 100%, mate. 100%. 100%. 100%. And I agree with that. Of course I do. It's going to be a high points tally, this, though. This could be the highest points tally in Premier League history. West Ham went down on 42 once as well. So this is going to be high. It's going to be high because they ain't going down without a fight. No way. And I don't see Forest going down. I really don't. So I just think they're too strong. Could be wrong, but I just think they're too strong. Dino says if Farke doesn't make any more signings, this transfer market and the board see teams around us strengthening, do you think he will see until the end of the season? Oof. Do you know what I'd say, Dino? It's not up to him, is it, mate? It's not. Ultimately, Daniel Farke is the man who was employed by the 49ers. He's employed by the 49ers. Now, the problem the 49ers have got is they can't go above his head because he won't play players. We know that. And I do speculate, I do think that there has been 49ers players before. I think we all know who they are. And there's Daniel Farke players. It's because we all know Farke has his favourites. There's certain players who get time on Daniel Farke, even when they're playing poorly. There's certain players who do not get. They'll have a poor half. He'll come out and say certain things about them in the press conference where he'll protect other people. I think there is sometimes a little bit of a power dynamic there, potentially. But it's a strange one with Farke. And I've got a voice note of Brownie, which I will put out in a second. As I've mentioned before, Dino, I don't think they see him as the long-term option. So I don't understand why he's in charge at the football club, because that's where I massively question the San Francisco 49ers, because if they're not willing to back him now and back his philosophy now fully when they've got the money to, he shouldn't be in charge of the football club, because then you're indecisive. There's indecision there. So Farke gets you to a certain point, which is outside the relegation zone, but then you decide, and amidst rumours anyway that you don't want him in charge of the football club, there's, you then show that really in the January window when he effectively comes out and says, the board know how I feel, but then you don't go out and bring signings in for him. We know Farke will say no to players. I think that's been widely documented, so that could be quite difficult. But then if Daniel Farke turns around and says, which he will have done, we know what Farke's like. Daniel Farke said, I want Luca Netz, I want Lorenzo Luca, I want, Stefan Ortega. 3 examples. I've all gone to Forest, but let's say those 3. If he goes and says, I want those 3 players and they're affordable, you go get them. You go get them. And they're all within that 40 million price bracket. And it's a striker. Ironically, it's a left back. And ironically, it's a goalkeeper as well. So all those 3 players that Forest have signed, in a hypothetical world, let's say Farke went to the board and went, I want this player, this player, this player. You go out and get him. You go out and get them. But I don't think the board will do that, because I think it was an agreement from both that Strand Larsen would have been suitable. But I think there's a long-term vision from the 49ers that Strand Larsen works with every manager who they're looking at. I think their data tells them that a 3-5-2 is the right way, which I would agree with for now and probably the next 2 or 3 years, because the Premier League's that difficult to get a technical level of which you can play the ball on the ground and really turn into that style of team of which you need top players if you're to play the ball on the ground, play out from the back, and obviously go long every now and again, but we know Farke doesn't like to do that. He likes to keep, with the spacing very small. He likes to play quite conservative, but he likes to play a certain way, possession heavy. You need top players to be able to elevate in terms of your league position year on year on year, and to be playing that style of football. You need top players to do that. So I think what the 49ers are looking at is probably a 3-5-2 system of where it's a bit more direct. You go over a press, and that's where kind of Strand Larsen works. I think he works in both systems. I think he's good back to goal. I think he's actually really mobile. He's good with the ball at his feet. So I think he works both systems. I do think there's probably disagreements within the board. There's no way Farke's coming out of this happy. No way. But then I don't think they have a long-term projection of Daniel Farke being at the football club, hence why they've not backed him. And this is a massive, for me, especially when he's coming out the other day and saying they know what effectively I need to do. I want. It's what he said in the summer. That they know what we need to do this, we need to do that, but it's not in my hands. And then they don't then do that. So I'm pretty sure he would go to them. I think he's bolshy enough to go to them and say, I want him, I want him, I want him. And if Leeds don't go and do that, then they're not backing the manager because they don't see a long-term future with that manager. And these players are for that manager. That's kind of what it just makes sense to me. It just makes sense to me that. DCL injured? No, mate. It's rubbish, I think. It's rubbish. Rats became a member, RT280. Shout out to you, mate. Thank you. Do you want me to play Brownie's voice note? Just to make sure I'm just going to turn this down a second and make sure this is okay for your ears. Here we go. Right, he's ready.
Hi guys. Apologies, can't be on tonight, but over at Sheffield United this evening. I'm fully expecting to bump into Alioski, Erling, Dallas and Hernandez at some point. But yeah, my thoughts on the transfer window, it just feels like a familiar story, doesn't it? Very similar to what we saw in the summer with Paxao, however you want to say his name. A target we were never realistically going to land. There was obviously a lot of noise and about big money and big ambition, and then when it comes down to it, we can't get it over the line, and then we hear all about all the PSR. So then suddenly we've got nowhere to move on it. Yeah, we're able to bid 40 million for Larsen a few months later. And it just seems the same situation to me, like a player everyone knows would attract serious interest. Not exactly a hidden gem after his season last year. I think Newcastle were chasing him in the summer for 55, 60 million when they were looking to replace Isaac. So which is it for me? That's where I'm at. Have we got no money, or is it just selective ambition? Or I say ambition, putting names out there that realistically the board know they're not going to have to fork the money out for. And obviously me and you have spoke through the day, Connor, and it's not really anything new. Farke wasn't backed last January either. I remember having these exact same conversations with you on the shows in the last January transfer window a year ago. We were both saying how much of a gamble it was to bank entirely on what we had on promotion without reinforcements. And the board will probably stand there and go, it worked. We got 200 points. That tells you the club had huge belief in the squad. And then we fast forward to now, and it feels like a similar mindset. Obviously, I think, can you say it's bigger jeopardy? Obviously, getting the Premier League is huge, but I think once you're there, you've got to stay there. And I think this season in particular is massive, because you look at what's coming up out of the Championship, and it almost feels like they're fighting amongst themselves not to get promoted. When you look at Coventry chucking away their lead, and Middlesbrough and Ipswich drawing at home to Preston. So I think if you stay up this season, you've got three teams that, like in previous Premier League seasons gone by, are nailed on. Really difficult to stay up next season. So if we do manage to stay above the dotted line this year, I think it's huge. And the board are clearly believing in the group again. But as like we've spoke, it does raise a bigger question around the manager himself. There was a lot of noise in the summer about his job being under threat, as we all saw. And then again, when we were about to go into that disastrous run in December, it felt like he had a week to save himself. I mean, since then, obviously I know the result of the weekend wasn't great, but it's against a team that you look like is going to win the league. We've gone on this incredible run of form. So now you have to kind of ask, are the board kind of stuck with a manager they might not be fully convinced with? But one that keeps grinding out results and kind of proving people wrong. And if that's the case, it starts to explain the transfer strategy, doesn't it, or the lack of one? Like we're not fully backing him, but then we can't really get rid of him either. I mean, how do you get rid of Fart? You got an objective stay in the league. You got a 6-point cushion. We've been beat twice since November. Both the teams that are in the Champions League. So it kind of feels like the board's hands are a little bit tied. They can't get rid, and it doesn't look like they're backing him either. I mean, we brought in a lone player who has had 2 opportunities to start games and started neither. Played 5 minutes at Everton and came on against Arsenal like 3-0 down. So yeah, it's a weird one, and it's one that I'm sure will rumble on into the summer, despite what league we're in. I think there's more questions than answers coming out of this transfer window, to be fair. But yeah, I still don't see Leeds going down. But who knows with this football club?
There you go. I think that's pretty spot on, isn't it? I think first time ever me and him have fully agreed. Shout out to Brownie. He'll be back next week. But yeah, can't disagree with that. I think there's more questions than answers. I think he's spot on with that. Meaning we've spoken throughout the day, to be honest with you, and he's not happy. He's not happy at all. Probably like a lot of you. Just bringing Graham's comment here. We win on Friday. Connor, the gap is 9 points, putting all the pressure on West Ham. Considering transfers, not easy to just go out and get 3 players like that. Graham, if Forest can do it, mate, the expectation should be that Leeds United can go and do it, mate, when they're below us. That should be the expectation. If Nottingham Forest would have got what they fully wanted, and Mateta wasn't dazzled by the bright lights of Milan and didn't want to go to the Trent anyway, Mateta would have been a Forest player. And if AC Milan hadn't have been about, then he probably would have been a Nottingham Forest player, and that would have seen, quite like you just said, actually, transfers are hard to get done. However, that would have been Mateta, Lucanets and Stefan Ortega. And how gut-wrenching would that have been? That Nottingham Forest have literally got the 3 positions of which we need to invest in. So if Nottingham Forest are able to do it, then us in a fresher position, a healthier position, should also be able to compete for signings like that and should be active in the market for players like that. Maybe not like Mateta, but the other 2 definitely. Gabe's in the building saying, worth noting that we've signed Facundo Buonanotte, as Brownie said, that everyone would rate higher than some players in our team right now. He's glued to the bench. This is the other issue, isn't it? It's the other issue, and it brings in, if you are Daniel Farke and you've got the board turning round and going, we've got you Facundo Buonanotte. This it might not be it. There might have been a joint venture, I'm sure there was, to go and get Facundo Buonanotte. However, he stuck to like Gabe said, he stuck to the bench. He's not coming in and starting. Now, technically, he's up there with Tanaka. He's a lovely football player. But does he? Is this? Yeah, I remember all these issues with Bielsa. We go and get certain players and they wouldn't quite fit the system. And I remember coming on here and screaming into the mic when Ramazani wasn't getting enough game time, and then all of a sudden everybody was saying he was a crap football player and had a bad attitude. This is what appears to happen. It's if Farke doesn't like a player or whatever, and I'm not saying that is the case with Facundo Buonanotte, but let's hypothesize again. If he doesn't like a player, then. Or even just if it's I don't even think it's a case of not liking a player. I think it's a case of Farke wanting to play a certain way, which is conservative. I think that's what is probably the way of which he's playing now. And that sounds contradictory because I've been saying throughout this that the build up from the back is what Farke's leaning to, but there can still be build up from the back and a defensive look at the game and a sort of a game plan which favours us being defensive and risk averse. And that's what, even when we've been possession heavy, that's what Farke's always been like, and we got to 100 points and still it felt like at points we were quite conservative, didn't it, in certain games? So, yeah, I think that's where he leans a little bit. And someone like Facundo Buonanotte is not a conservative player, but he's a good harrier. He's a good presser. He's good in those elements where Brendan Aronson's very good, but it just doesn't ever seem like loan signings for Leeds United in January work. And this should be, I'm hoping this is different because this is a real exciting player. I just don't know if he'll play him. And now, I know it sounds daft, but now you look at, Ryan's just brought a good point there, you know. Longstaff's back, and we know he likes Longstaff. Dan James is back into the picture. You know, I don't know. I don't know. Is it going to be a case where you see Facundo Buonanotte start week in, week out, which he should be doing? Jared said he'll start. Come on, give it a few weeks to train and learn the tactics. Yeah, fair enough, mate. But we did. It was said to us that it was sort of a match fitness element, and you know, I don't understand how you become match fit without playing match minutes. That's what I don't understand. You can be fit in training, but if you're not match fit, then you need to be exposed to match minutes. 3D says, so Connor, do you think we'll stay up and everyone else strengthens? Yes, I do. I'm going to put my faith in us beating Forest. Ask me again if we've lost to Forest. Ask me again if we've lost to Forest, and I'm sure I'll give you a different answer. But up until that point, I'm saying that we're going to beat Forest and it's going to be 9 points, and West Ham are going to shit it. That's what I'm hoping. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Guys, I've not asked you as well yet. Slap a like on the video. We have 29 minutes left. 29 minutes left of the window. Oh, dear. See what else is going on. Everton have rejected a £20 million bid for Dwight McNeil. My God. I think what we can we all agree with this, because I know there's a bit of a shout out to you, the daddy. I will read out your comment, mate. What needs to happen in the summer is there needs to be a real sorting out in terms of what's going on with Farker, what's going on with the board. If they're going to keep him, there has to be some genuine resolution here. There has to be. I think that there is a lack of agreement between the 49ers and Daniel Farker, or Underwood & Co. and Daniel Farker, on specific targets. I think we can all agree with that because of how narrow the targets appear to be, and Leeds staying active in the market, but still not going for players who are playing in Daniel Farker's league, you know, the Bundesliga a league that he knows, and we've not yet moved on it. And then the league that we're in right now, Stefan Ortega, who is available, his agent will have been saying to clubs like Leeds, who is what agents do, you know, they'll start looking for their client to get the best deal. And they'll have been looking at the Leeds situation, and they'll have said to Ortega, would you fancy that? And he'll have given a yes or no. I can't imagine he'll have said no to Leeds, and yes to Nottingham Forest with the situation right now in terms of league standing. But, you know, he'll have been offered to Leeds United, 100%, and Leeds would have given it the yay or nay. There has to be in the summer some resolution here. There has to be. One of them has to yield, and there has to be a greater list of targets. And a lot of you'll say, well, Connor, there might be loads. They might have agreed on loads, but stuff's going on in the background. But I think we've got enough of a sample size now to suggest that throughout the windows, it's taking longer, and the targets are very small. You know, they're very narrow. It appears that Leeds United are sort of focused on one and one only. And that's happened several times now. And that tells me, and it's weeks, you know, between signings. Leeds never get really 2 or 3 deals done within a week. I think there's real focus and analysis. And do we want him, or do we not want him? This has to be sorted in the summer. It has to be. And that doesn't mean Daniel Farker has to leave the football club. But what it does mean is if we do stay up, this is a massive risk now, because they are now risking this whole thing. They're putting it all on red and just spinning that roulette wheel. And hoping it lands there. But yeah, if we are in the Premier League in the summer, this has to be sorted out. It has to be, because this to me stinks of maybe a lack of agreement at some point in that Leeds United hierarchy. There's the list of targets is too narrow. It's too narrow. Daddy says Leeds like setting records, like going down on the highest points tally. Jay says if Grev left back covered in 4-2-3-1, that's what DF wants. Bufazan says we have to be lucky and avoid a DCL centre out. We do, mate. Yeah, I'm still positive and hope that the talk of DCL injury is fake. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of the whole issue. But I mean, lots of people are saying that's a load of rubbish anyway. Steve says, please read the message, Connor. Someone at the club higher than Farker needs to come out and tell us why we brought no one in. And hopefully that explains it, Steve. I think that's what it is, mate. I think there's a small list of targets, and I think there's probably a bit of a lack of agreement on certain players. And I think when the players have come into Leeds, I've mentioned this before, but they've maybe not played. And then you clearly know the ones that Farker likes, because he'll talk them up in the press conference. He'll play them obviously a lot more, and there's a lot more sort of attention around these players. And then he's got his favourites, and there just has to be more of a common understanding on certain individuals. And for all the talk of, Facundo Buonanotte, I know Jared's just mentioned it there as well. Facundo Buonanotte coming in and, he needs to get used to the system and all this sort of stuff. Jared and for others saying that in that Everton game, could he not come on in the 45th minute? Did he need to come on with 5 minutes to spare? The Arsenal game, could he have come on at half-time when we're 2-0 down and we've got absolutely nothing going forward? Could he not have come on then? Or does he need to learn to train and learn the system? Like, come on. Facundo Buonanotte, who's been, in a Brighton and a Chelsea and a Leicester setup already in his career, I'm sure will be able to acclimatise to the Premier League, which he's already played in, for 1.5 seasons, and be able to slot into a Daniel Farke system, which we're not talking a Bielsa system here, a Daniel Farke system of which he can then profit from, surely. And as well, when you're looking at a small pool, when you're looking at Daniel Farke and the board, clearly with some level of disagreement there, I think that is equal to the lack of alternatives we have as well. The lack of plan B, the lack of plan C, because clearly there's a lack of agreement between both sides of maybe said B, said C. Because then the conversation's got to be, well, are you going to play them? And he's going to go, no. Go, right, we'll move on. But this target's now more difficult. And that target's now more expensive. Ash says, can you bring loans outside of the transfer window, i.e. Largy? I believe so, Ash. I believe so. That there's no point in entertaining that, though. That's not going to happen. I'd be stunned. I'd be on the plane getting him back. But I reckon the Birmingham game, we must start Buonanotte. Yeah, I mean, at some stage, he's got to be starting games, mate. He's got to be starting games. Otherwise, there's really no point in us bringing them in. Dino, hey mate, do you think the run of form we have been on 2 defeats in 11 reflects our transfer activity? Do you think if we would have lost more game in that run? Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah. I mean, there is also an argument that Daniel Farke wouldn't be in the job. So, yeah. And from what you believe, within that Chelsea-Liverpool game, there was conversations in the boardroom that, maybe certain people were saying one thing and certain people were saying another thing, and they were conflicted about Daniel Farke, which is never a good sign. But yeah, so 100%, mate. I think there would have been an action on Daniel Farke, but I'm just not convinced that they what can they do now? What can they do? And that's the conversation, because they clearly don't think, for me anyway, he's the long term. So it is what it is, isn't it? Bielsa for Farke in the summer? Nah, not for me, mate. Not for me. You and Gio know more? We are, mate. We are indeed. It's just been a bit of a hectic. It's been a hectic couple of weeks, actually. I think we're on. Hold on, I'll send him a text. I think we're on for tomorrow. Gio, I don't know if you're in the chat, mate. Let's see him. Sorry, mate. We on tomorrow, by the way. Yeah, I think Gio's on tomorrow. So we have got relegation rhythm. So yeah. A lot of work to do tomorrow on the second channel as well. Simo, we've already mentioned that. Yeah. So we have 20 minutes left. 20 minutes left of the window. What's going on? But I am frustrated. Yeah, I'm frustrated. But I mean, I think all you guys are. Because can I ask you guys one thing? So, a Forest stupid, a West Ham stupid, a Palace stupid and that's just kind of how I feel with a lot of this stuff. It's like Leeds as an entity seem to think that they never need to do the predictable thing. Are we all in sort of agreement with that? They almost seem to think that every time, because worst case scenario, and this might be a Farker and Board thing, and this might be contradictory, but maybe Facundo Buonanotte is a player that maybe Farker doesn't like, and that's just speculative. But to be fair to Daniel Farker, if like Brownie said, if you're offered a good player, you're going to turn him down? Of course you're not. Even if he's not really playing that much, even if you can bring him off the bench, Jared's just mentioned it as well. Even if you get him training and all this sort of stuff, you might see him. You might see him play, and you might see him impacting this side. Why do we not just go and do the obvious things? Why do we just not go and do the obvious things? Just go and bring players in, at a relative level of which we can afford. Nothing stupid. We're not talking Ridsdale. I think this club, when it comes to fan sentiment, are a little bit scorned on what's happened previously. Go and bring players in. The fan base will lap it up. We'll all be absolutely buzzing. We'll all do videos on it. The content creation will be mad. Leeds fans will be given a little bit of a buzz. So will the players. New fresh faces coming in. But it's just always the case. It's always the case. We are the smartest people in the room. And, when it's come to like when we had like Beal and Stack. Beal, Stack. How many have we got in that squad? Beal, Stack, Bornau, Gabby Goodmanson, Perry, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Metcher. And then we've got Okafor, Buonanotte. Apart from Buonanotte, who went to Chelsea, how many of those deals have been really difficult for Leeds to get done, right? So we'll talk about, at the start, maybe they didn't put a bid in, but they clearly were touting Noah Siddiqui. We all knew that. Wanted Habib Diarra, which they put a bid in and didn't get him, and focused on him for a while. Rodrigo Muniz put a 26 million plus 6 million add-ons in for Rodrigo Muniz. Didn't get him. Igor Paixão, 40 million quid. Didn't get him. Strand Larsen, 40 million quid. Didn't get him. So the really difficult, almost like the straightforward ones, and there might be stuff going on in the background. Leeds might have beaten a club to a deal, and that might have happened. But in excess, when you're actually looking at the big ones that Leeds have tried to go for, the statements, Leeds have failed. Leeds have failed in going and getting these signings. When it comes to some of the big ones that have been out there, when it comes to the publicized negotiation and all this sort of stuff, like why is it Leeds that, I understand that other clubs are going to come in when Fabrizio and Ornstein and all this sort of stuff and Graham put it out there, but Leeds should be able to deal with that. It's always going to get out there. The parent club, Wolverhampton Wanderers, are always going to say, you heard this stuff, like Liam Keane put something out from the Express and Star, the Wolverhampton publication. Liam Keane put out something about, Strand Larsen and Leeds and all this sort of stuff on his podcast. And apparently the noise from Leeds was that we didn't want that to get out. Well, it's going to get out. It's going to get out because that's how parent club gets the biggest valuation for their player, their asset. It's just bollocks. It's like, how do you not expect a parent club to leak this to the media so they get the highest price for their commodity? What are you going to say? Oh, please don't say anything. Please don't say anything. We'll only go to 40 million. We don't want a bidding war, but please don't say anything because we don't want anybody else getting involved. Well, no, we think we could. I mean, we rejected 55 million quid from Massimo. We think we can get something similar. Oh, but then we're going to have to, but then everybody's going to be involved. Well, yeah, that's what negotiation is. So they're going to have to deal with that. These high-profile players, of which they go for long periods of time, they don't really succeed with them. Gabby Goodmanson, we didn't have mass competition. Beal, according to reports from The Athletic, we had it sewn up pretty early on, which is great. That's brilliant. Anton Stack, it always felt, and from Stack's interviews afterwards, he was always attracted by the Leeds project. He always wanted to come to Leeds when Leeds came in. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Leeds came in. He wanted to come to Leeds. That was probably the one of which maybe we faced the most competition because Everton put a contract in front of him and he said no. And then apparently there's some European clubs, but he said in interviews that when Leeds came in, his head was turned, wanted to come back to Yorkshire. So Leeds is the obvious one. But these high profile attempts that Leeds go for these personnel, we spend so long on them and we don't actually get them over the line really. And it just wastes time. And that's kind of how I feel at the minute. I think that's the biggest frustration for me. That's the biggest frustration for me when it comes to Leeds, because I know maybe in the future, if I see Leeds United in the summer with a high-profile signing or someone who we're all looking at, and wow, look at that, there's a likelihood now when it's that individual and there are going to be other clubs looking at him, it's going to be the other clubs that are going to get him because Leeds, for whatever reason, can't get it over the line. And that is now, we've now got evidence for that. We've now got evidence. It's not just one, it's not two, it's 3, 4, probably more. You know, you go even like all the way to the back end. Do you remember when I mentioned this previously, but do you remember Ben White when the 49ers were still in the room and there was Rads and Orta? We didn't want anybody to know about the Ben White saga. Nobody else can get involved. It's just us and Brighton. And Brighton are like, no. A, we're not letting him go. So no point in sticking around. Oh, no, but we'll stick around. Like, if you do decide to let him go and get another set, no, we're not letting him go. He's playing the back three for us under De Zerbi, under Potter. We're not letting him go. No, but if you do let him go, we're going to be here. All right, fine. You know, and then constant leaks that Leeds didn't want this to get out and all this sort of stuff. And it's just nonsense. Nonsense. Leeds United says it's all PR spin, Connor. It's profits before Leeds United investment is to shut us all up, potentially. Facundo agent contacted Leeds. That you're not the first person to tell me that, mate. You're not the first person to tell me that. Donny says, I hate our tunnel vision we go through. Strand Larson notes, mate. As I say, it's the problem is now we've got examples. And you know, this is the issue now. You know, the problem is we fixate, and it's boring to say, but we fixate on a deal and we continue on that fixation for 2 or 3 weeks, and then we don't get it over the line. We just don't get it over the line. A lot of the ones that Leeds have got done have been relatively simple. And we won't know the complete ongoing of what's going on behind the scenes, of course. But in terms of publicised negotiations and battles for players, if there's a battle for a player, Leeds just ultimately lose out. So, you know, and that was kind of like, and it's kind of worked, hasn't it, because of Anton Stack. But the biggest one in the summer was Habib Diarra. When we went for him, put a bid in, and he went to Sunderland. And that's not nice to hear, but it's what happened. You know, it's what happened. So what the hell went wrong there? You know, stuff like that. Yeah. What's the update? No, nothing, mate. we're all just having a big rant. Or I am. So let's have a look. Gaz says, hey up, Connor. Do you think Underwood's lack? No, I don't really, mate. I don't. I don't like blaming him too much on it. I understand it's his first job, but it's been so many directors of football that have come in the first year. They've been ultimately successful, or they've not done well. But yeah, I don't think so. Apparently, he's very, very highly rated, you know, and that's kind of what the sporting director, you know, he's recommended by a lot of people as well. There's actually conversations apparently about him going on and becoming, you know, head of recruitment for other clubs as well, wasn't there, in the Athletic piece. So yeah, I don't solely blame Underwood. I maybe look at Underwood and think, could there be more people around him? It looks like a very, very small team. Very small team. So yeah, maybe it's just bodies in and around him. But there has to be more synergy. There has to be more synergy between the targets we have and the agreement at board level. This is just sit back and think about this. One player on loan. It's madness, isn't it? But yeah. So we've got 11 minutes left. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the reaction. Interesting. Danny says, does it worry that West Ham and Forest have strengthened, Connor? Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, of course, because they're ultimately, a stronger outfit, aren't they, going into the remainder of the season? And I guess have probably got a little bit more depth than us as well. I mean, these are two squads who've been in the Premier League as well. We're not talking with the greatest respect of Sunderland, who, it'd be nice to have them down there, or like Burnley, who we're battling with for staying up. Burnley are already done. We are battling. This is another thing a lot of people aren't talking about. We're battling with two established Premier League sides. So individual quality-wise, we're not as good as Forest, and there's probably an argument we're not as good as West Ham United in terms of individual quality because of the longevity they've been in the Premier League and the amount they're able to put in wages and the depth they've accrued because they've been in the Premier League for so long. So we don't have that. And then on top of that as well, they've then gone and added bodies to that. I mean, the quality of these bodies is yet to be tested, but we're still not on the level quality-wise of a West Ham and of the Nottingham Forest yet. I know we're above them. I know we've beat West Ham. I completely get that. And we're probably a better team than West Ham United. We're not better individuals than West Ham United, but the better team is very important. And that is what keeps you up, of course. But in the Premier League, you're always playing catch-up. Leeds will be playing catch-up for the next 3 or 4 years. 3 or 4 years, it's going to be every window we're going to have to be spending a mass amount of money to stay up. This is why I think sometimes it's a bit crazy when people are like, "Oh, we'll finish 10th, and then we'll finish, 8th and 7th," and that's not how it'll work. Leeds will have to keep their head above water in 17th, and this is why they've got such a chance. You look at the teams coming up, guys. These aren't teams. And I might be proven wrong, right? These are not teams of which we should be fearful of next season. They're not. They are not teams of which we should be. So this is an unbelievable chance to stay in the Premier League. An unbelievable chance. Because next season, they're all trying to throw it away anyway. You look at, I cover the Championship every single week. You look at Ipswich, they're trying to throw it away at the minute. You look at Hull. Hull might get into the top 2. And then you've got Borough and Coventry have won like 1 game in 7 or 8, I believe it is now. They're all really struggling at the minute to get into that top 2 and to cement in that top 2. If Leeds United stay up this season, we have a huge chance to then go like that. Okay, bang, let's go. Those 3 are going to finish below us. Because I don't think you've got a Sunderland coming up next season. I don't think you have. There's an argument a lot of those teams are going to be in and around Burnley in terms of points tally. And then the Premier League will level up again as it always does season on season. We need to be part of that. This is why it's a big, excuse my French, big fucking risk doing what they've done right now and not invested in this side. The only thing that's given me any form of comfort is the fact that we've got a decent home record, a very good home record. We've lost like 1 game in 14, 15. I do think we'll still stay up. But am I a little bit more doubtful now? Yeah, naturally. Now we've got 4 days till Nottingham Forest. We lose that game and fucking hell. I'm going to be worried. Of course I am, naturally. It's a reactionary thing, isn't it, this content creation? And football's reactionary. You're all reactionary. Leeds lose a game, we react in a negative way. We're all upset. No matter how you show it, we're all upset. Leeds win a game, no matter how you show it, we're all buzzing. So it's very up and down, this business. But yeah, you beat Forest, then you go 9, but massive. But what I will say is it's not over. 9 points is a lot to overhaul. Of course it is, but it's not over. And we've seen that, it's been 8 points and goal difference. By this weekend, it could be 9 points again, but it could be 3. That's how much it changes in a game week. It does not frigging help that we've got West Ham in this equation as well. They've just somehow turned around the form, which is great. We haven't got an Ipswich, we haven't got a Southampton or a Leicester just stinking the gaff out, or a Luton from years gone who were just stinking it out. We haven't got that. We have got a very, very competitive battle for 17th place here. A huge battle for 17th place. On every stream, you'll hear this. It's every stream. I think the most common comment on this is is someone talking about that. In fact, right, I'll message him now. Right, I'll voice note him. I'll voice note him now, just so you guys get that peace of mind. Where are they? The lads. 1 Leeds. There we go. Hey, mate. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Just as well, I'm live on 1 Leeds now, and everybody else is getting really angsty on the group chat because Carl Darlow has an English flag next to his name. Carl Darlow's Welsh. So if you can sort that out for me, that'd be great. There is about 2 or 3 comments on every video that I do from definitely a Welshman or 2 that he's got an English flag next to his name. So if you can sort that out, that'd be great. There you go. 4 minutes. Any heat map? Yeah. Tick tock. Get in. God. There is a Sky Sports guy outside. But yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything going on. Oh dear. Well, Wolves striker Jorgen Strand Larsen, his representatives are in central London ahead of a planned announcement of his move to Palace. West Ham fans, there's someone saying here, my team is 18, 6 points adrift and can't keep a clean sheet. And I'm seeing ungrateful supporters of teams like Palace and Leeds and Fulham moaning about their team's transfer business. Grow up, guys. Crazy how McNeil's going to Everton. Crazy. Tottenham are interested in Raheem Sterling. Anything else going on? What's happening? Do we have like a deadline day trend? We don't have even a deadline day trending thing. What's gone on? There used to be, let's go. Hashtag deadline day. There used to be such a good deadline day feed on Twitter. It's shite now, innit? Deadline day. Leeds have signed, to be fair, Man United's highly rated attacker, Edward Ibrovich Fletcher in a permanent deal. So there you go. One for the youth academy there. That's an exclusive from Sports PO. Deadline day. Yeah, not that much going on, I don't think. Someday. Oh, dearie me. Oh my God, Sky. Focaccia's loving it. I think Focaccia's thinking there's some bombers going on. Chris in the building saying the club deserves to be relegated. Unfortunately, yeah. It's poor, lads and lasses. Really poor. Axel to West Ham. Well, at least they've sorted out because it's Tadibo, you see. Tadibo's suspended for 3 games, so at least they've sorted that out. A bit proactive. Palace have tabled a late bid. Rough, innit, this? Yeah. So, yeah. So predictable. Same old. What's the use of complaining? Exactly. Daniel says late move. I don't think so. Random guy saying, here we go. No, I will. Skies are outside to say it's mad Leeds are doing nothing. I think he's going to do a little bit of a sort of bring together of everything that's happened in the window and say Leeds aren't doing anything. I find it crazy how, and I've said this the last couple of episodes and stuff. I find it crazy there are people who are so calm about this whole thing. Like, I find it crazy. I find it crazy that there are people who are just like, yeah, we're done. Leeds are fine. I couldn't get my head around it. I've said that we're staying up, and it's almost just it's self-talk at this point. It's self-talk positivity. Guys, 6 points is nothing. It is nothing in football. It really, really isn't. It's 2 game weeks. So I'm really disappointed with the 49ers. Can't hide it. I'm really, really disappointed with this. Yeah, I am. poor. Really, really poor. And yeah, they extend it to 9. That's fine. But there's just a risk of not strengthening that squad. And this is probably the worst set of injuries we've had this season. So it's blatant. It's in the face. You need to add quality, but this is a blatant sort of little injury, minor crisis that we're going through at the minute. Goodmanson isn't fully fit. Bogle's only just come back. Bornau is consistently out. The goalkeeper, without have any situation when it comes to the goalkeeper. Beale's out. Metcha's out. Then you've got players who just are just not match fit because Farker only gives them a certain amount of minutes per game. Tanaka looks off it when he's been playing. I think there's a low confidence ebb there. I really do. Okafor's going through a bit at this moment in time where I think a lot of the fan base is questioning him. It's a patched up squad at the minute. Not in terms of injuries as such, but in terms of everything brought together. Everything brought together where there's a few issues here. And I'm stunned that they've not sought to bring in more. I really am. And as the window is now closed, I believe it is. Crazy. And we always do this as well, everybody. You know, when it comes to the form table, it just shows how crazy this league can be. So Leeds were, before the Everton game, Leeds were in and around 9th, I think. So this is the form table now, the last 6 games, which is normally what form tables are. They're the last 6 games. So this is what the form table is at the minute. So that's the last 6. Bearing in mind, last day of the season, we've got West Ham at the London Stadium. That is the form table. So, yeah. I just think when it's like that and it's as tight as it is, and it was so close to being, and the improvement West Ham have had, even that, they were rock bottom of the form table. Rock bottom of the form table about 3 to 4 weeks ago. The injection of signings, the players coming back from AFCON, just think it's mental and arrogant and naive that they've not strengthened. And the league is too mental. We've never had, it's going to be records points tally. It's going to be a record points tally, this. And you've got 2 established teams going up against Leeds United for that 4th bottom spot. We are a newly promoted side. These are established, especially when you look at West Ham. But even Forest now, you know, European team, mass amount of players. It's very, and I just tell, to be honest, a lot of it is just self-talk when I'm like, yeah, I think we'll be all right. And I think we will be all right because it's 6, but we've got 6 points more than West Ham at the minute. But that is to not do anything and to bring in one lone player when it's like that. And when you've known it's like that is mental. It's mental. And I think it's negligence. I think it's really, really poor. And just to top it off, Larson confirmed. There you go. Yeah. Just put a little tweet out, I think. Just give my summary, not that anybody cares. Get your thoughts in, everybody. We're going to get through them in a second. Oh, dear. See what you guys are saying. I don't know what I was thinking in the last bit, but I don't know. A bit naive. Maybe thought, oh, who knows? Maybe. Nah, not a single body. John says, what's absolutely mental is when we're in the Premier League, teams need a huge amount of points to stay up, but when we're out of 25, 30, it's absolutely fine if we go down. Yeah, they will, maybe even more than that. And that's the thing. But then they know that. They know that. They know how competitive this is. West Ham have got back-to-back wins. It's not glazing West Ham, guys. It's just the reality of the situation. They're 14th in the form table. They have turned a little bit of a corner. They've turned a little bit of a corner, and they'll need a bigger sample size, but they've won 3 on the bounce in all competitions, and they were unlucky to lose that last game. So yeah, this is going to be on right until the end of the season now. It's going to be right on. Had to be a little bit more, I think. Had to be a little bit more done. Yeah. So just put out there, really disappointed. The league is tightening. West Ham are improving and we're close to slipping 3 points behind, 3 points in front last weekend. Hard to understand how the club decided another Cam, who might even start, was enough. Feels like another missed opportunity. Another loan would have been nice if no permanent signings. Yeah, agreed, mate. Yeah. I can see it's nasty if we don't get a result. There's a bit of pressure on them now, but they knew that anyway. Do deals in their sleep. They were certainly thinking, but honestly, this is on the 49ers. I don't like the manager and think he's the wrong choice, but this is on them. It is. They're the ownership of the club, mate. John says, we don't ever seem to learn. Whole window chasing someone we were never going to sign, then nothing. Meanwhile, all teams have strengthened. Then I think we'll stay up. It'll be close. Oh, it's going to be mightily close now, mate. Mightily close, I think. We're just going to have to keep, it's just keeping wins in it. It's winning those games. Chris says West Ham won 2 in a row in October and then they were unlucky to lose to Villa, but they did. Then they didn't win 10 games. I know, Chris, but when was that? 2 in a row in October and then we're unlucky to lose to Villa. And you could be right. At that point, though, Somerville wasn't fit and he's got 4 in 4 now. I think Somerville brings out a better Bowen. I don't think Castellanos is great, but I do think there's a little bit more. I mean, at that point, I'm pretty sure he was playing Bowen as a centre forward. Matías Fernandez is now just got up to speed, and they've got a bit more balance in the fullbacks. I get what you're saying. I understand that, and let's hope, but let's not pretend they've also not improved. What we don't want is us to get into that bottom 3 at any stage. I think it's going to be tough to get out. I think it is going to be tough to get out at this point, just mentality-wise. But yes, I agree with what you're saying, Chris. That is a bit of context. That is a bit of context. Right. Yeah. How many of you in the building? To be honest, I've not actually checked how many of you have been here for like 2 hours. So we'll have a little look now, see how many of you are here. 1,700 guys. There's 1,000 of you who haven't liked the video. Do us a solid and slap a like on the video. Thank you so much. Get a few of your comments in. Grev's heat map is doing the rounds again. Yeah, Graham said it's fake news, but I guess we'll only figure out, won't we, about his injury on on Wednesday. Chris has said our summer window was dire, but this is top city. Yeah, this is a bad one. This is a bad one. This is a bad one. You can spin it as much as you want. It's not a good one, this, people. It's not good. To be tracking someone for 3 weeks, of which we didn't get done again, which is another high-profile signing of which Leeds have targeted and not signed to join the growing list. And then to not have a backup at all, not have a backup. Say it's a market opportunity, say you're going to be active when it comes to market opportunities. And then for the last day, Leeds United to lose out on, well, not even lose out, it looks like we didn't even attempt for it. Stefan Ortega's got to Nottingham Forest for 500 grand. Oh, God, say it out loud again. Stefan Ortega, we're going to stay active is what we were told. You've had a keeper who literally walks in as our number one. Go to Forest, who they've already got Matt Sells in the sticks, so there's going to be a bit of competition there between those two. But literally, Ortega comes to us, he's straight in. He's straight in as number one. But, and we'll get on to what the but is. And then you've had Luca Netz, who has played left wing for obviously Germany this season, and then he's played left back as well. So he's actually perfect for a left wing back position. And you don't move on that either. And that's an opportunity that presented itself at the end of the window for 2 million quid. So for 2.5 million quid, you drastically improve the squad. They don't do that. They think they're the smartest people in the room. Genuinely, they think they are the smartest people in the room, Leeds United. And it's been a case for too long. Too smart to do anything. Who actually cares if you stockpile players? It's worked with Forest, hasn't it? It's worked with Forest. There's many Premier League clubs. Everton. There's many Premier League clubs that's worked for. Palace to a certain extent going forward over recent years. Is a manager ever going to say no to it? I mean, he might do. Who knows? But, is he ever going to say no? And you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but no to top players. I think it's a little bit naive if you think 6 points is enough. And I don't normally make statements like that because I'm always saying stuff like, football's subjective, and it is subjective. But my opinion is, I think if you think 6 points right now is enough and we're home and hosed on that, I think it's a little bit naive. I do. To be honest, I don't think it's a lot in football, especially in this Premier League campaign that we're having. Calgary calling, hey mate, we've done it again. Risking all the time, incompetent. Forest is pivotal. Win at all costs. Leeds unsurprised and unimpressed. 49. Do you know what the thing is as well? If we'd have brought players in, you'd have looked at Forest, wouldn't you, and thought, well, that we need to win that game. But if we'd have drawn to Forest, but yet you brought in like a 9 and a left wing back, or you brought in a goalkeeper and a 9, or a goalkeeper and a left wing back, something that drastically improves the team. You know what I mean? Something that drastically, you go, yeah, we just need to bed these players in. They come in and we look a lot stronger. Like, you don't beat Forest, and it's like, yeah, that's then Forest unbeaten in 5. And they've signed better players this month than what you have. So it's hard to just explain, isn't it? I think they're arrogant. I think that's what they are. I think they think they're the smartest people in the room. We've seen that now. There's got to be something going on. And that's got to be, if we do stay in the Premier League, which unfortunately has been made more difficult now. But if we do stay in the Premier League, there's got to be a sheer sorting out in that boardroom in the summer in terms of this. What's going on? Why do we only ever have one target? Why have we never got a plan B? Why, when we've got these big targets, do we never get them over the line, but we focus on them for 3 or 4 weeks? In Pai Zhao's case, about 5 weeks. Muniz, do you remember how long that took? What was it, 5-6 weeks? And we're just solely focusing on that. Who's the backup? Oh, nobody. And then just like, obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin comes out of the woodwork, doesn't he? And thank God that worked. And quite strangely, actually, the Muniz one would have been a disaster, wouldn't it, with his injury this season? But it feels like that was just a bit of luck, wasn't it? So, yeah, it doesn't. Telly's in the building. Hey, Telly, not seen you in a while. 40 points will be close, but should do it. 10 wins, 10 draws, but must win Friday also. Yeah. I think I've seen a lot of people saying we're all done. I don't think we're done. But there is a lot of stress. I think there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress on Friday, I think, and the home games, but it's gonna have to be like that now. It was like that anyway, but it just helps a little bit, doesn't it, when you've got that added bit. Someone just put out there, go and get the Grove heat map. Oh dear. Let's see what else has been done. I've not seen the Strand Larson thing yet. Oh God. Good God. Well, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Everything will be fine. Thing is, win on Friday and everyone feels a little bit of a boost, don't they? Let's hope we just have some players back for it and we can just move on. Yeah, we win on Friday. It's all fine. It's all fine if we win on Friday, I think. Let's hope we do. Mooks has said, cheers for your donation, mate. Leeds need to recruit a new recruitment team. Everyone around us seem to spend except us. Frustrating, Connor. Yeah, there's a weird sort of repetition with this now, isn't there, mate? So yeah, let's hope we just win on Friday and it's all fine, isn't it? It's all fine. But guys, it's been a pleasure. This is going to be the end of the Rumour Mill. Another window. I think this is how many windows have I done this for? All, literally every day in the window. I think this could be my 12th or 13th Rumour Mill on the channel. So I'd just like to say a big thank you to you all, tipping my hat off. I appreciate you being here all the time. And yeah, it's last Jan we brought in one player. I was there for 30 days and 30 nights. And the exact same's happened this window as well. We have brought in one player, and look, Penny for being up. I think on deadline day, I was streaming in the summer for about 13 hours, and we didn't do anything. So it's just the life of being a Leeds fan. The life of being a Leeds fan. Thanks, Steve. So let's just hope everything is fine and it's all dandy and Connor can start. Imagine if we just like the Sunderland and do you remember, I'd be on here all the time. We'd be having a great time, wouldn't we? In terms of players coming in, it'd be great. Forest, just players coming in, something to talk about, but no, we just sit on here and it's just therapy, innit? It's not even rumour mills anymore. We're not talking, it's just fucking sit here and talk about therapy. Everything will be fine. Oh, dearie me. But yeah, let's hope it's okay. And yeah, Jamie, see you in 10 minutes when we get Hendrick. Appreciate it all, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow for relegation.